Hello and welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. It's my pleasure to invite everybody to join Council in O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I would like to share with you a land acknowledgement. The town of Oakville is located on treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We thank the Mississaugas for being stewards of this traditional territory. By 1820, the Mississaugas began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Almost immediately, Oakville was welcoming Black people fleeing the United States. Our Indigenous white and Black residents created a community of harmony that makes us proud. By 1857, Ontario recognized Oakville as a town. And at Town Hall, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas with the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada to acknowledge our origins. The vibrant livability we are creating for all attracts people from across Canada and the world. We feel sorrow for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across the world, including Canada and here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for everyone. We believe the path of truth and reconciliation, I don't know why that's happening, but anyway, can unite us. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us, oh, I see. This is really hard to do, two things at once. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us on council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. Please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. We're all present. There are no regrets for this evening. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Mr. Clerk, I see no declarations. Would a mover and seconder like to confirm the minutes of the regular session of council on August 11th? Councillor McNeese and Councillor Lischina, thank you. Any objection? There being none, those minutes are confirmed. We also need the same service to approve the minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee dated September 11th. Councillor Shia and Councillor Duddock, thank you. Any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being none, those are approved. Council, we have a consent item, the corporate policy update, and I wonder if I can have a mover and seconder. Councillor Longo and Councillor Grant, thank you. Any objection? There being none, those are approved. We also have the June 30th financial results, and I'm looking for some indication from council. Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. My only question on this is just in terms of the Autumn Mayor's Action Plan, which I thank you for your leadership of that group. Is there any specifics on what the money's going to be spent on?
Going to be. This is a report on the past.
Right, but it says to add a new project in the amount of, so I'm just wondering if we're going to add 355,000, is there any, like, even some detail?
I'm sorry, but I don't have that information here. Staff presented that, prepared that. Maybe there's a question, maybe there's an answer from the CAO.
Mayor Burton, I see that our Director of Economic Development is on the screen, and Rebecca will
Perfect.
have some answers to that, and perhaps with the assistance of staff here as well.
Perfect.
Through you, Mayor Burton. Yeah, so we've applied for a grant in the total of $355,000. In general, there are some action plan items that have been developed through that working mayors group. So we've asked for some funding to support the work of those action groups. So there's some studies that each of those will be led. Each of the working groups is actually led by a different mayor of a different municipality who's part of Auto Mayors. So the funding will go to help fund those projects. As well, it's funding for some of the Auto Mayors upcoming meetings over the next couple of years. That will help us do that. We currently partner with different municipalities, but this funding will allow us to, for example, bring a meeting back to Oakville and have some funding to do that here, as well as some funding to hire a person to support the work over the next 2 years. The duration of what the grant allows is what we've requested at a very high level.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? A mover and seconder then, perhaps. Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Adams. Any objection? There being none, that is carried. Thank you, everybody. We have no confidential consent items. We have several discussion items. Council, I'm just going to ask Councillor O'Meara if he would like to give us a motion with regard to 12.1.
Yes, happy to move the staff recommendation there.
And Councillor McNeice, would you like to second that? And Council, is there any objection to this item? Mr. Clerk, there being none, that's carried. And then on 11.3, Council, would two of you like to move and second that? Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Longo. Councillor Nanda?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. I just had a question on that. I actually just wanted to ask staff about the FTE that was in there for $111,000. Just out of curiosity, is this something that we would need in this year's budget?
Through Mayor Burton to the councillor, the intention is to put that request in for the FTE through the 2026 budget request, but it'll come forward at a later time. It's not, support for the plan today is not necessarily approving that position.
So not approving it for like next year?
That'll come through the budget process when council is considering the budget requests.
Okay, and then I saw on, it was page 42 of the report, that there's also an option for contracted resources. Would that help instead of an FTE?
Through the mayor, it may help with advancing some of the priorities. In reality, we're looking to have a senior position to be able to drive the work and the outcomes that we're looking to achieve through the plan.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, we've got a raft of questions. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just a question on a couple of questions. I'm wondering if staff can maybe speak to the reason on why we're doing a couple of 5-year agreements with. I mean, I'm hoping that Remembrance Day continues for much longer than 5 years, and I would love if the Terry Fox run was not needed tomorrow if we found a cure for cancer, but I'm not sure that's going to happen either. So I'm wondering if you can maybe put a little context around why we're doing a sort of a check-in at 5 years on those two in particular.
Through the mayor to Councillor O'Meara, the events that are noted for the 5-year agreements are longstanding legacy events within the town. The intention of doing a 5-year agreement provides some accountability and transparency back to the town for the investment that the town is making in terms of the grant dollars. But we looked to do a 5-year grant so that it wasn't burdensome on the event organizers having to reapply, and it would provide them with some stability in terms of knowing that their funding is coming over the next 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still not 100% sold on that. I mean, these are legacy events. They're events that I think we would not go without at any point. So I mean, I think that they might get nervous around the year 3 or year 4 and going, uh-oh, is the town going to do something here that maybe we don't like? And I know we give 5-year predictability, but I mean, if there's a way that we can maybe look at this as not so much a legacy, but more of a of a part of our culture and our history that we're going to continue to do, especially with the Remembrance Day parades. I mean, these are things that our veterans, I'm sure, would appreciate knowing that in perpetuity, we're going to make sure we support them.
So through you, Mayor Burton, if I can just add, I think it's just good practice for us to have a period of time where council can just revisit, reflect, perhaps provide direction or changes to the nature of the relationship. I think we acknowledge the feedback was clear. You want this to be an ongoing relationship. I think it's just good practice is what we're recommending to you, to have a period of time where, again, we can just revisit, have a conversation with the organizers, and adapt or make changes at that time. It just gives us an opportunity to do that.
Okay, yeah, I'm as long as I think these organizations hear the conversation here, that this is not we're going to see what happens in 5 years, and we're committed to working with them. So I appreciate the clarification on that. 2 questions. I didn't see Oakville Transit mentioned in this report, and I think as our roads get busier and our parking spots get removed, I think there's a role for Oakville Transit here in terms of helping to move people to events and to places and to spaces. And I'm wondering if that's going to come out a little bit more, or if we can make sure that we look at how we move people to these events around town with dedicated transit routes for special events and these types of things, because I think that's an important part. So I'll leave that with you. Just wanted to raise that. And then my last point, and we're struggling with this at the region too, is the role of police and EMS at a lot of these events now. Those are massive cost drivers, and you know, there's something that a lot of the events don't have any say in. Because when the police or the EMS say, no, we're doing this and here's the bill for it. So can we just commit to working with our police and our EMS, perhaps the region, to make sure that we have some symmetry in terms of what we're going to try and provide for these events? We all want to be safe. We all want to make sure the people are there to help us if we need it. But it actually stops events at a certain point. So if we can just maybe commit to that, I would be very grateful. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams.
Thank you very much. I wondered if staff could describe in a little bit more detail the $70,000 new funding request for community grants and how that will roll out, what kind of organizations might apply for it, the eligibility and so forth.
Sure. Through the mayor to Councillor Adams, the intention is of the $70,000 ask, and while in the report it was captured for 2026, I just would like to note it as well that as our leadership team has gone through the prioritization exercise, that request has been pushed out into 2027. The rationale in 2024, Council had approved one-time funding of $70,000 to support community events. What we're looking to do with the grant program is streamline it and simplify it so that we have better visibility over the funding that the town is providing. In terms of the eligibility, a lot of the community organizations that are currently accessing our the fee waiver program would be eligible to apply. However, the money wouldn't be restricted to just necessarily the town costs. So as a prime example, an event maybe previously might have been eligible for $500 in fee waivers, but perhaps their needs, whether it's to cover off costs of policing, they may be able to apply for additional funding from the town, from this grant program, to be able to support that. The intention is those grassroots community organizations. That's really where we want to focus on supporting in terms of the eligibility as well. But the draft terms of reference for the grant program are included within the council report as well within the appendix. But there would be a fulsome program to be able to roll that out and develop it further.
Okay, so the change that I just heard you say is that staff are going to recommend that piece of funding come in 2027, not 2026.
Correct,
So
yeah.
that's a change from what's presented in the report.
If I can just maybe add some clarity, Mayor Burton, on the budget process, which we're going through at the exact same time. You actually have two reports on here. You had some on the last agenda as well. So many of things require some consideration through the budget process on funding. And so this is a perfect example where we've gone through a preliminary review at a staff level, looked at what we thought was reasonable. But absolutely, as part of the reporting going forward to council, as you normally get, anything referred to the budget committee, we provide you the full information package, and it's really for council to consider it, and the mayor certainly to consider it in his final budget. So that's the process we're going through, if that helps.
Yes, that helps. Thank you very much. I would expect that all these items, there would be a page that says, this is a thing that got referred and it's either in or out of the staff recommended budget when it comes up in October. That's correct. Right. But just to highlight that that's a change from what's in the report. The other question I wanted to ask you about was the facility improvements in various park locations. It's described here without a lot of detail about how the next steps would roll out in terms of the park planning process that would happen. If I were to name Glen Ashton Park, for example, in Ward 6, what might be the expectations around how our community might see changes happen over time?
So through you, Mayor Burton, the intention of the funding is to provide the kind of infrastructure that events require within a park space. So you can imagine things like water, access to power, just those sort of things that simplify the execution of an event in a park. The locations and the determination of which parks will be part of the capital budget program. So that's still being determined. And part of that will be looking at the parks that are in greatest service to events and identifying some geographic spread for that. So the detail of that will come through capital budgets in future years. But again, the intention is really to build in elements of infrastructure within a park that make it easier to host an event in that park.
And so those may not be special event items in the capital budget specifically. They may be park revitalization projects that would then include an opportunity to add the power, add the water, add a small stage, those kinds of things.
Through you, Mayor Burton, that is exactly the intention, is to utilize existing revitalization. In some cases, there may not be timing that lines up, but that is very much the intention, is to build that element in as we're revitalizing parks.
Great, thank you very much. We can all start jockeying for getting our park revitalization projects in.
Let the jockeying begin. Councillor Shipp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Amden's already touched two of my questions, so I will continue with one. So for the 70,000 budget for 2026 to 2027, it's the same as last year, so each ward have a 10,000?
Through the mayor too, Councillor G, the intention isn't necessarily broken down by ward. It's a cumulative pool, and then as part of best practice with grant programs, there would be an evaluation criteria for that pool of money that would then get allocated to event organizers. Our hope too, and perhaps one of the criteria that we could build in, is to ensure that distribution across the town. Hoping to animate multiple communities as well.
Okay, thank you. The second question is on page 128. So there's tables of funding. So may I know there's some others event which is a town lead, like Canada Day and Santa Claus Parade, all this kind of, where is the budget? Is there any the number about that?
So through the mayor to the councillor, the budgets for the events that are already staff-led, so there's a variety of events that we do, including Canada Day, the Santa Claus Parade, as well as events that are tied directly to service delivery, such as Family Day programming, Culture Days, etc. Those are already included in our base budget.
Okay, so I think we can see the budget book, there's portion of that, right? So we can see from the budget.
Yeah.
From this.
Yes. We've got separate business units within the budget that we can account for all of the costs for those events.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of quick questions with respect to the one, more of a statement on this one. With the report, I understand completely how we're going on this, but we need a principal statement up front on the benefits of why we have special events in the town. We need to have that buy-in. Council needs to understand we're in this business, we're in or we're out. So we can't piecemeal it here and there. Let's be very definite and clarity with respect to the benefits of our special events in Oakville. So I would like to see that put in somewhere along the lines. The flag went up with me, as Councillor O'Meara indicated, this 5-year agreement. Is this a consideration as an MOU with the organizations like the BIAs?
Through the mayor to Councillor Chisholm, the intention is for it to be a funding agreement, but that can be fleshed out further. If there's a need for an MOU, then that's something we could explore.
I think that's important when you've got at these high-level events at an MOU. We've got MOUs with the Oakville Arts Council. I think that might be appropriate, and also a financial model, because the understanding too, there's the BIAs is 20,000. The question is, do we go through the budget committee for requests for an increase, or is it part of the agreement if we have an MOU and saying whatever council has a 3.5, it automatically would be a 3.5 for the special event? I'm being selfish here talking about the BIAs because costs are going up. For a 5-year plan to have stagnant or flat fees it's not appropriate. So I think we need to be a little bit more proactive in that point. So that's the two things. If we can really look at if we're getting into an MOU on financial and an understanding of who does what is very important, because sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hazzateel.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. I was actually looking forward to getting the presentation, but I will ask my questions, and then my closing question will be, what have we missed that you really feel is important that we highlight to the public? Because this is really for the public. It's about, making it clear what we support, how we will improve and simplify. But my questions, first of all, I support Councillor Chisholm's comment about on the BIA side, we need some type of inflationary measure. And I just want to confirm, they don't have to apply for the standard grant. It is part of the base budget right now? Okay. That's right. I appreciate that we want to be able to make sure everybody in all corners of the community benefit, but they truly do by keeping the 3 commercial districts thriving and the volume of events they can turn out. So I'm glad to hear it's still there. When you mention revenue development, are we talking about revenue generation through the people who are going to be putting on these events, or are you talking specifically about revenue generation through grants and sponsorships from other parties, not the individuals who are putting the sweat equity and the organization in?
That's through the mayor to the councillor. That's the intent of it, yes. It's not to, we're not looking to increase prices significantly, but looking to ways that we can support those grassroots community organizations to be successful, and perhaps looking at exploring other sponsorship opportunities. There's a recommendation within the plan that we help to build their capacity to promote volunteerism and help those community organizations in a sort of a liaison or a coach capacity as well.
Okay, thank you. Good to hear, because I don't think they could take one more increase in the cost of all the different things they have to pay for. On page 72 of the report, you talk about it's a criteria, it's the draft event evaluation criteria, and you talk about the capacity of the event producer. And it just struck me that it doesn't really reflect on the scale of the event that would be being provided. The language that's used is with a strong capacity the leadership, business acumen, experience, organizational structure. That can apply to some, I guess a few, but many of them are, maybe in their personal life, they have some talent and skill, but their organization is not built to do this. And yet it's one of the mandatory criteria. So I just wanted to call it out because I wouldn't want, as you just said earlier, we're trying to lift up those that have the energy and the enthusiasm to deliver these community events. And they may not know all the detail to be able to do that, but through your initiatives that you've got in this plan, hopefully they can. I just didn't want them to get knocked out because they're not pros at this.
Through the manager of the council, I'll invite Carly Anderson up. Carly is our Senior Manager of Culture Services as well. She'll answer this question.
Okay.
Great. Through the mayor to the councillor. It's a scaled application as well, so it's noted in the report. We put together a draft terms of reference that shows how we could evaluate 4 different categorizations of events. So we're giving context to that, but the scale, the weighting scale that you see, which ranges between 10 and 25% of the application, will be sort of change depending on the amount of funding that they're applying to. So it'll be commensurate with the amount of funding that they'd be eligible to receive through the grant program. So we tried to put a lot of information in one, but you make, in response to your point, it is that if you're applying for a $2,000 grant, the weighting criteria for that particularly would be lower versus if you're applying, through the MAT tax for in excess of $10,000 to support a major event, then that criteria would be higher.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. One of the pieces that, as I read it through on a couple of occasions is, and I know you've gone through and tried to prioritize short, medium, and long term, but I'm not sure it comes through clearly what will happen by the end of 2026, what will happen by the end of 2027, and I think that clarity would be beneficial, particularly when we get to a discussion at budget about headcount and what would be accomplished. You've got tremendous ideas in here, and I know you can't do it all. We generally can't give you everything you always wish for, but if you could take my comments into consideration, I'd appreciate that. And my final comments are just around, I'm going to come back to a conversation I think that in some of the pre-discussion. I really think the message in this needs to be about support, simplicity, and streamlining, not layering in more process, but rather trying to get it to a level of simplicity that people will feel, I can do this and I can make this happen for my community, and we're there to support that. And sometimes maybe because we need to have all of this detail, it gets lost, but I think that should be the fundamental principle.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Just a quick question. So this is going back to now, Councillor Adams was talking about the community events grant. So if we're pushing that over, I saw on page 130, it looks like for the request for 2027 is going to be quite high. I was looking at the action implementation, the ask that'll be for 2027 for 151,000. Can you explain that a little bit more? What that would entail?
Yes, actually, we have that. 1 second. I think it's in here. So the ask then in 2027, as it was captured in the report, previously included the implementation, a portion of the event supervisor, as well as the implementation of the remainder of the plan, so which includes a feasibility study for an evaluation of the park assets that we have. Is there anything else, Carly, that was included?
The action included the feasibility for a purpose-built event venue.
Yeah. This, as I know, the feasibility study for a purpose-built event venue is captured in that $150,000.
And so you decided to move the grant over to 2027 because instead of,
Through you, Mayor Brown, maybe I'll take that question. So as CAO closely referred to, we've done some preliminary work on recommendations related to the budget that you'll see through the coming budget process. And so the reason we've moved the funding over is that we've tried to prioritize across the entire organization. The main element that I understand from our staff is the staffing position is critical to advancing the base work that needs to happen over the next year. And so to be ready to really maximize the utilization of additional grant funding, they have some legwork to do. That's why the FTE is being asked for in 2026. And that'll be part of our budget presentation for council's consideration. And the feeling is we'll be in a better position then to add in the additional funding because groups will have been able to work with our staff as we build the program and get ready for 2027. And that's the rationale for pushing it out an additional year.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm.
Your Worship, I guess we have to apologize. I think we jumped in early on this subject, on topic. I think there was a presentation that was going to be put forth by the staff. Is that correct?
Yes, the presentation is a summary of the report, which you have. And it was, I did not anticipate that there would be so many questions about this. If that's a request to see the presentation after we've all asked our questions, sure, let's do that. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. I just, if you'll indulge me for a moment, I wanted to offer a bit of information to help Councillor O'Meara in one of his questions, and then additionally, I want to add a couple comments. So first of all, on behalf of the Halton Police Services Board, I'd like to pass on a bit of late-breaking news that as of our board meeting last Thursday, we've actually asked staff at the Halton Regional Police Service to work with our regional colleagues at EMS to develop some protocols around how we can make security more affordable for community groups. We are aware of the fact that the policing costs in particular have actually resulted in the cancellation of some events in the region, and we also are aware that those policing costs could result in the cancellation of more events. We're in a period of time in our society where security is more important and risks are greater, so we have to be cognizant of that. But we also.
You want to check the potatoes?
I would love some potatoes.
Perfect. That'd be great.
That was not part of my presentation.
They're done. Are they soft though? They looked done before, but they weren't soft.
I'm not even sure where I was. No, I remember where I was. So to that end, the board has asked the staff work commensurate with a conversation that we had at council about this very topic at the region to develop ideas, whether it be some sort of subsidization through our community fund, which is a non-tax based fund that's available to the police, used to be known as the bicycle auction fund, or through the allocation of funds to help offset certain pay duty type of arrangements that are community benefit for non-profit or charitable organizations. So this is work that is starting now in earnest, and we hope to have something both presented back to the board for their consideration in time for the upcoming budget cycle, as well as for the upcoming special event season next year. In terms of a comment, I just want to emphasize, I just want to add that as a regular event organizer myself, I want to thank the staff for this report. I really think it demonstrates a real commitment and interest on the part of the town to support community events in Oakville. And as an event organizer, I really do appreciate that because these events are more and more complex all the time, and the demands are great on organizations that are trying to do this. So this framework is really solid, and I think will help those of us that organize community events be more successful in the execution. The one thing I'm particularly pleased to see is the emphasis on the equitable distribution of events across the town. Those of us in Northern Ontario, those of us in Northern Oakville, along with the potatoes from Gabe's home. We are very, obviously anxious to see more events in the north, and the commitment to equitable distribution across the region, across the town of resources is quite heartening. So thank you for that. And with that, I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Councillor Haslett-Deal again.
So I just wanted to come back. In the presentation that you probably worked very hard to put together, is there anything that you feel that we haven't asked or missed that you would like to make sure we are clear on from a public perspective?
Councillor, maybe I wasn't clear. In response to Councillor Chisholm's request, we're going to have the presentation momentarily.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that. Okay, thanks.
All right, staff, let's have the presentation, please, and thank you.
Fantastic. Can I do I do it from here, or do I go over there? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, they'll do it for you. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Excellent. So, as much as I like talking about stormwater, not my area of expertise, but if I could ask clerks to bring up the special events presentation. Do we have the ability to plug in?
Which presentation is it?
I don't know. There we go, that one, right there. Yep. Perfect.
But we do a lower third title. I don't think we've ever met, so I don't know what to. Sorry?
Christina. Okay. But if you just pull up that presentation.
We just won't put anything up there.
No, they have it right there. Can I? No, I can't do it though. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, Council. I'll just launch right into the presentation. Events are a cornerstone of community life in Oakville. They bring people together, celebrate our cultural identity, and are important contributors to our town's vibrancy and livability. This year alone, the town will have supported the delivery of approximately 375 community-led events, with demand and interest continuing to rise. Over the past 18 months, staff have worked closely with the consulting firm Expedition Management to develop a plan with the focus on delivery of community-led events and how town staff can best proceed, or can best support. It's worthwhile noting that there are several events directly delivered by town staff that are tied closely to our services. Staff will continue to deliver these events, such as movies in the park, family day programming, and culture days. Additionally, staff will continue to directly deliver the Santa Claus Parade and Canada Day events, given the scale and significance of these events to the town. But the plan primarily focuses on how we can support grassroots community organizations to continue to animate neighborhoods across the town. In terms of the plan, I'd like to highlight a few of the main elements that shaped our direction. Expertise and community consultation was completed, drawing on input from residents, organizers, and staff with more than 1,400 touch points and contributions. The cultural significance of events recognizes the role of events in connecting residents and celebrating our identity. We aim to establish a transparent decision framework, ensuring funding and permitting decisions are clear, fair, and accountable, and ensuring a proactive, coordinated approach, creating systems and processes that anticipate needs and support organizers more effectively. With that context, I'll now turn it over to Carly, who will walk through the current conditions, the future direction, and priorities of the action plan.
Thank you, Christina, and hello, Mayor and members of Council. As mentioned, Oakville has a strong and growing event landscape. This past summer, tens of thousands of community members came together to celebrate at events delivered by local organizers. But through this work, we also identified challenges. Permitting is not simple. Infrastructure and staff capacity to support events is limited. Funding decisions have been fragmented and fee waivers inconsistent, and tools, including the promotional tools to support organizers in supporting and delivering their events, aren't as strong as they could be. We also heard from residents who want more diversity, especially in arts, music, multicultural, and food programming. At the same time, organizers are facing rising costs, increased safety and security requirements, and volunteer fatigue. To continue delivering high-quality experiences to the community, Oakville needs a more supportive, transparent, and sustainable system. So the plan sets out a clear direction for us at a high level. Better calendar management. So enhancing the overall calendar by creating a balanced schedule to avoid conflicts, minimize impacts, and guided by clear decision-making. Transparent funding and grants. The plan consolidates financial supports into a single, fair, and efficient program with a strong focus on grassroots and community-led events. Infrastructure and capacity. This includes investments in our parks, facilities, and staff, as well as building the capacity of event organizers themselves. Accountability and alignment. This ensures that every funded or permitted event in the town connects back to the plan's priorities and demonstrates clear community benefit. The plan organizes this work around two overarching goals: organizational development and event and program development. Organizational development refers to building the systems, the resources, and the planning tools needed to strengthen the town's ability to support events. This ensures transparency, measurable outcomes, and alignment with community demand. It also focuses on event and program development, enhancing the experiences available to residents and visitors, prioritizing inclusivity, geographic distribution of events, and responsiveness to growth. Together, these goals are supported by 12 initiatives, 60 actions, and 10 priority actions that were validated through consultation with both council and the community through a survey and series of conversations that took place this past summer. So I referred to the 10 key priority actions as top priorities, and I'm just going to quickly summarize them for you. Streamline permitting and evaluation, supporting event organizers with a single point of contact, and implement process improvements to simplify the administration of organizing events while establishing capacity limits and controls for our event spaces. Stronger promotional opportunities, which I've touched on, including tools and capacity building for support for organizers. Continuing support financially and through staff resources for events like Canada Day and the Santa Claus Parade, while leveraging diverse revenue streams to sustain and grow these events. Investment in event infrastructure, so as I mentioned, upgrading parks and exploring a purpose-built outdoor venue specific for events. And investment in staff and programs, building organizational capacity, expanding the grant program, and preparing to respond to future growth. These are the areas where we can have the most immediate and meaningful impact. And one of the most significant recommended changes in the plan is the creation of a new community events grant program. This program is designed to support grassroots, community-led events through a consistent framework and equitable funding opportunities. The program would have 4 categories: community, emerging, and signature events, all with their own application processes and criteria, with grants ranging from $2,000 to $6,000. Major events, which we've defined as large-scale, multi-day events attracting regional visitors and generating significant tourism and economic benefits, fall outside of the grant range, but will be reviewed separately against the municipal accommodation tax and also considered through the forthcoming sport tourism strategy. These events the program would also provide stable funding through multi-year agreements for endorsed signature events, such as the Terry Fox Run, Remembrance Day events, and BIA events. So a new consolidated grant program would reallocate existing funding within the operating budget to continue to support event organizers. So for example, the current special event fee assistance allocation of approximately $25,000 transitions into the program. Right-of-way management funding is integrated into the grant allocation pool to improve the application of these funds to offset the cost directly for the Terry Fox Run and Remembrance Day as part of their new funding agreements. And the BIA events allocation of $60,000, which is $20,000 per BIA, continues. Staff estimate that an additional $70,000 in funding would be required to support the ongoing needs from event organizers through a grant program. This estimate builds on the success of the 2024 one-time community events funding program. The report originally identified this additional $70,000 for the program as part of the 2026 budget, but following a prioritization exercise by the executive leadership team, this recommendation has been moved out to 2027. So subject to 2027 budget process and council approval, the Community Events Grant Program would then launch in 2027 with a total envelope of approximately $95,000, combining the new funding with the existing special event fee assistance allocation. To avoid overburdening event organizers, we will introduce a transition year to implement the program. So this means in 2027, in year one, organizers will either be able to continue using the existing fee reduction approach without an application. So typically this is 30% off of eligible expenses, including park permits, as well as certain amenities like picnic tables and hydro, or they can apply into the new grant program. They can't do both. Both options will draw from the same allocation to ensure fairness. By year two, the goal is to transition all eligible organizations fully into the grant program, which will operate with 2 intake periods annually to support planning. The program will be guided by clear evaluation criteria, which has been informed by community feedback that we heard through the 1,400 touch points, as well as best practices from other municipalities such as Festivals Burnaby. Recipients will sign agreements, submit post-evaluation reports, and staff will review and report back to council on the effectiveness, the impact, and the success of events in our community. So finally, a note on implementation. Endorsement of the plan tonight does not commit the funding. Requests will be brought forward through the regular budget process. In 2026, staff will request $111,300 for one event supervisor. In 2027, staff will request approximately $151,000 in capital to advance priority actions, including park servicing upgrades and a feasibility study for a purpose-built outdoor event venue, as well as the $70,000 for the Community Events Grant Program. Where possible, costs may be offset through the town's share of the municipal accommodation tax, and all other costs would be accommodated within existing budgets. So to close, the special events plan is about supporting the activities that make Oakville such a livable and vibrant community. I'd like to thank council, staff, members of the community, our BIAs, event organizers, and all those who contributed to this community-informed plan and continue to deliver amazing events all the time. We're confident that the plan and its priority actions will strengthen the health of Oakville's events, enhancing quality of life for residents, and delivering both social and economic benefits. Thank you for your time, and we'd be happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Council, are you ready to, do you have questions or are you ready to make a decision? Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you. Well done. Good presentation, very clear in its clarity. Finally, we've been trying to get a special event strategy for what, 10 years or more. I was involved in when I was working for the department way back when. So congratulations to staff. This might be out of scope, Your Worship, but a question might be through to Paul. With respect to a special event location or park, have we made any movement on special event park in Oakville?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I think that is the really why we need a feasibility study, Councillor Chisholm. I think we need to assess what do we need. We need to look at possible areas where that could happen. To give you an answer now is premature because I think we need to roll up our sleeves and do our homework and come up with some recommendations for council. So we'll hope to do that through the feasibility study.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Councillor McNeese.
Yes, through your worship. I saw the municipal accommodation tax, the MAT, listed on there. Do we have many details on what role that may or may not play?
Ms. Anderson. Ms. Zietsma.
Yes, through the mayor to the councillor. There will be a report coming further, I believe in the next coming months, from Finance and Economic Development that will speak to the MAT tax in particular and providing some guidelines and criteria for how that might be used, recommendations for how that might be used moving forward. The thinking typically is that that funding needs to support events or infrastructure that's going to draw visitors to Oakville and support those that are going to be staying in hotels.
Okay, I look forward to that additional information soon.
All right, Councillor Chisholm, is that your hand to move it? Councillor O'Meara is moving it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Knoll, thank you. Is there more questions? Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, there's no objection, and the staff recommendation is adopted. All right, we're going to move back to advancing the full implementation. I tell you what, we have delegations on 11.2. I think we should go there next. I apologize to them. I did not anticipate the depth of council's interest in this item. We have a well, I don't actually have a note here about a presentation, but Ms. Hewitson, I'm assuming you've got a presentation. Well then, please present. Thank you. We briefly saw it moments ago, but perhaps it's hiding. There you go.
Thank you very much. Okay, good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I'm here today to present the final recommendations for the town's stormwater funding and implementation plan. The report builds on the rainwater management financial plan designed to manage stormwater and protect town residents and property owners and reduce risk. The recommendations reflect extensive public consultation, technical analysis, and council direction over the past 3 years. The purpose of this presentation is to seek council approval for the proposed stormwater fee structure, the associated bylaw, and the stormwater policy, which will ensure sustainable funding for the town's stormwater infrastructure over the next 30 years. With me today, I have 2 representatives from AECOM who've been technical advisors on the stormwater feasibility study. We have Pippi Warburton, who's a senior project manager, a senior water resource engineer at AECOM, and the lead for Water Resources Canada. Mike Gregory is a licensed professional engineer with over 30 years' experience in stormwater management across North America. And combined, they have been involved in over 20 stormwater studies in Ontario. Why is it? In March 2023, staff presented an overview of the town-wide rainwater management plan roadmap. The Rainwater Management Financial Plan is a multi-phase plan that builds on previously completed work to provide an integrated approach to planning and implementing stormwater needs, not only to maintain assets in the state of good repair, but also to provide enhancements to build resiliency against more extreme rain events. The town owns and operates and maintains over $963 million worth of stormwater assets, consisting of 240 kilometers of ditches, 690 kilometers of storm sewers, 156 kilometers of creeks, 8 kilometers of shoreline, 67 stormwater management ponds, as well as an array of green infrastructure such as vegetated swales, infiltration chambers, and tree soil cells. The work done through the Rainwater Management Plan has provided us with an understanding of our future stormwater infrastructure needs and identified that we will need approximately $732 million over the next 30 years, which averages to about $24.4 million per year. These funds are needed to ensure all stormwater-related infrastructure and natural assets continue to operate effectively to help mitigate flooding, control erosion, reduce pollution, and maintain water quality. Details of the individual programs within the $732 million were provided as part of an appendix in the July 2023 Council report. Having a financial plan to support our infrastructure needs is a requirement of the Asset Management Plan Regulation 58817. As a result, over the past year, the town has been exploring funding options for a sustainable source to support its long-term infrastructure needs. Based on the analysis, the current tax-based funding model is not sufficient or equitable. Without this funding, the town will face significant challenges in maintaining and upgrading its stormwater systems to meet climate resiliency objectives. The feasibility study reviewed the current property tax system, a tiered flat fee, and a variable fee. Each option was reviewed and evaluated against the following guiding principles: to be fair and equitable, affordable and financially sustainable, transparent and justifiable, promote climate change resiliency, and simple to understand and manage. Effective public and stakeholder engagement is critical to the success of developing the long-term stormwater management financial plan. The plan included 3 rounds of engagement and consultation, which was coordinated to support council's decision-making process. The first phase started in June 2024 and was focused on providing the public background on the town's vast stormwater system and services, the importance of stormwater management, and why we need to increase our investment in stormwater infrastructure. This was followed by 2 rounds of public communication and engagement in the fall of 2024 and again in June 2025. Overall, the public engagement included a townwide survey, 2 in-person public information sessions, 4 virtual public information sessions for residents and businesses, 1 meeting with the Mayor's Community Leaders Roundtable, and 3 consultation meetings with the Oakville Chamber and its members. Consultation continued over the summer of 2025 with 3 dedicated business information sessions hosted online, with invitations sent out through the town's Economic Development Department to the Oakville Chamber of Commerce, as well as individual letters to the top 40 landowners in Oakville. Overall, public engagement has been fairly robust, with over 740 respondents to the survey, 60+ participants to the various public engagement sessions, as well as dozens of emails to the dedicated stormwater fee at oakville.ca. The feedback demonstrated a strong understanding of the importance of stormwater management and the desire for a fair and sustainable funding model. Over 67 of the respondents supported fees based off runoff, and 70% supported a credit or rebate program. This input was critical in shaping the final recommendations that have been presented today. Tonight, we are recommending a dedicated stormwater fee structure that better reflects each property's contribution to stormwater runoff. This approach ensures that those who contribute more to stormwater runoff pay a fair share, aligning with the principles of fairness and justifiable. Under the property tax method, based on assessment value, residential homeowners pay approximately 80% of the overall property taxes. When we calculate how much stormwater runoff comes from residential properties, their contribution is about 57%. The recommended funding model is one that distributes the cost to different property types using estimated runoff. For each sector, residential properties will pay a tiered flat fee based on property type, while non-residential properties will pay a variable fee. As a result, this method shifts funds to be collected more as a user pay model, where properties with more hard surfaces will pay more. This structure provides a balance between the fairness and the administrative effort, and was selected based on public feedback, technical analysis, and the alignment with the guiding principles for a transparent and sustainable funding source to meet our stormwater needs. So during the feasibility stage, estimates were calculated to illustrate what an average homeowner would pay if we were to increase property taxes to the required $24 million versus what they would pay as a stormwater fee. So indicated in the slide, a single detached home, the average assessed value is approximately $1 million. If we were to increase or collect $24 million worth of taxes through the property tax method, it would equal $320. Whereas with the stormwater fee method, they would be paying $273. And you can see the other examples for semi-detached, townhomes, and condos. So overall, the recommended flat fees are approximately 15% to 68% lower than if we just added it to the tax levy. This is a result of using the estimated runoff for the different property types to distribute the $24 million. The recommendation, as I mentioned, for residential properties is a 3-tier flat fee structure with $273 per year for a single detached home, $128 per year for semi-detached or a linked home, and $60 per year for high-density units like condos and townhomes. You may recall when we first presented our fee options, we were only considering 2 tiers for residential, low density and high density. Based on the extensive analysis, it was felt that having 3 tiers better reflected the average property size and runoff contributions, ensuring that fees were most equitable, simple to understand, and easy to administer. The analysis showed that a variable fee for residential properties would be more complex and much more cumbersome to administer and maintain. The tiered flat fee approach provides a fair and transparent method for distributing stormwater costs amongst the residential property owners. For non-residential property, fees will be calculated based on estimated impervious area using rates based off of design engineering guidelines. For institutional and mixed use, the rate will be $42 per 100 meters squared. For commercial and industrial, it'll be $50 per 100 meters square. And last but not least, for a special category representing golf courses and vacant development land, the rate will be $6 per 100 meters squared. On average, non-residential fees result in approximately $3,700 per year and would range from smaller properties paying about $50 per year to some larger properties paying $90,000 per year before a credit reduction. Based on the analysis, this method ensures proper proportionality to property size and approximate runoff generated by the individual properties. The flat fee was not recommended as it would result in a small corner store paying the same fee as a much larger industrial property, which did not seem to be as fair and equitable for this user group. Along with the fee, staff are recommending a credit program allowing the non-residential properties to receive up to 50% off their fee for implementing stormwater best practices that demonstrate peak flow reduction, a volume reduction, or water quality controls. Eligible infrastructure includes storage detention facilities, incentives for installing rain gardens, permeable pavers, or other low-impact development. By rewarding proactive stormwater management, the program supports environmental sustainability and reduces the burden on the town's stormwater system. This approach incentivizes property owners to implement on-site stormwater controls and aligns with council's climate objectives. So this slide is an example to show you 3 different property types of what the fee would be and the potential credit if they were to be eligible. So in the first portion, we have a small business, which is about 200 meters square property area. Their stormwater fee would be about $98 per year, and if eligible for a credit at the 40% maximum amount, they would get a reduction of $39 and paying $59 for the year. When we compare that to a medium-sized commercial property, about 8,100 meters squared, their stormwater contribution would be about $4,100 for the year. And if eligible for a credit at 40% maximum, they would get a credit of $1,600, reducing their annual fee to $2,450. And lastly, the large commercial property that is over 70,000 meters square, their contribution to 24 million would be $36,900 with a credit of possibly $14,700, paying an overall fee of $22,000. As part of the evaluation of our fee, we also considered different properties that should be eligible for fee exemptions. In order to streamline the process, we wanted to mirror the policy legislation and have proposed that properties that are exempt from taxes today would remain exempt from the stormwater fee. So these would include provincial properties such as schools and hospitals, places of worship, and not-for-profit, along with a few other different property types. The exception to this rule would be that the town and region will pay fees. We presented this option to council at the June 2nd workshop and seemed to receive a fair amount of support for the town and the region to be demonstrating a commitment and environmental stewardship. In terms of the implementation and timeline, if the stormwater fee is approved, the intent would be to have all future operating and capital stormwater costs shift off the tax levy and would be 100% fund the fees upon implementation. The implementation is targeted for summer 2026, which would allow for adequate preparation, system integration, public communication, to ensure a smooth rollout of the stormwater fee program and processes to be developed. One of the feedback we did hear from the non-residential community is that this was not a great time to be implementing a new fee. So as a result, we are proposing that the fee be phased in over a 3-year period, starting with a 50% discount in year 1 and growing to the ultimate $24 million in year 3. With the new fee approval, a new stormwater program would be created in the budget book and a new dedicated reserve fund established. in order to provide clear and a transparent way for council and residents to see how much the stormwater funds are being used and the capital projects being planned for. It's recommended that the stormwater fee program, along with the reserve balance, be reviewed every 5 years to ensure it continues to meet the town's needs and guiding principles. Contributions and withdrawals would be managed through the town's budget process. So in closing, this plan ensures that the stormwater funding is a fair, sustainable, easy to administer model and is aligned with the town's climate resiliency goals. It provides a more user-pay approach, shifting the cost to properties that contribute more to the town's stormwater system. Tonight, we request council's approval of the fee structure, the credit program, and bylaw to move forward with consideration of the implementation timing and phase-in approach as part of the 2026 budget. Stormwater management is a core function of the town and often goes unnoticed or seems intangible. That is, of course, until something goes wrong. The funding approved through this program represent a significant step towards protecting our community from the impacts of extreme weather events and ensuring long-term health of our $698 million worth of stormwater infrastructure. So I thank you for your attention, and if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
There might be a question or two. Councillor Elgar is first, and away we go.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thanks very much for the presentation. Could you go back to the slide where you're talking on $1 million property? That was a very good one. My question is, when you get there, where you're saying the residents are currently paying now on $1 million, $320? Is that, if I'm trying to read whether, or you're talking if we pay 24 million a year, the 24.4 million per year, that's what that 320 would represent?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes. That would be if we increase the tax levy to cover the $24 million required. They're not paying we don't have $24 million on the tax levy today.
What are we paying today? It's because, you know, when we go around saying, hey, we're going to save you a lot of money on this, I'm just trying to figure out so the taxpayers really know the cost. What is it today? What are they paying on $1 million property of this specific charge?
Today, on average, we collect about $12 million, so it would be half of that today.
Okay, so the 320 drops down to 160 basically.
That would be what they're paying today towards stormwater.
Okay,
yes.
And that's what I had to understand. So really, we're going from $160 per million up to $273 per million. That's what you're saying? No, yeah, that's what if we approve this tonight, that's what we're doing. We're going from a single-family residential goes from 160 on $1 million. It'll just be a lump sum to every single detached house will be $273 by 2028.
Through you, Mayor Burton, today it's $160.
Yes.
And when we grow the fee to $24 million, yes, it would be $273.
Okay.
It's not really, you can't really, I guess,
well,
looking at stormwater and the $24 million in isolation, you can't really compare what they're paying today to the increased need of $24 million.
No, but that is in fact the truth. When I try to tell people, don't worry, this is going to be really good. It's not really good news for them. Their cost overall would go up. Now, the $160, can I take that and make sure I'm going to get that back in my taxes now? At least I'll drop it $160 on a per 100,000 or on $1 million?
Through you, Mayor Burton, that's something that needs to be considered through the budget process. As you are well aware, there's a number of factors that play into the property tax levy with all the different services and capital needs across the various different programs. So I can't answer that for you today.
The way I would explain this is we will no longer collect the $160 for stormwater. And so what's in front of council is, do we want to raise taxes to pay for the stormwater infrastructure, or do we want to fund it through a fee based on who's causing it the most? And if we go to the fee compares properly to the $320. And since we would no longer be collecting the 164 stormwater, it truly is a bargain. Now, council has a number of other things that it always wants to do, and the tax levy might not go down by $160 if you spend it on something else. At the last budget committee meeting, I believe there were 30 items that council was looking for funding for, some of which were requests for funding. There was also a request for a zero tax increase, which of course led me to wonder how you add those things and you get to zero, but nevertheless, the intention here is very clear. We're going to stop collecting for stormwater on the property tax if we adopt a fee. And if we don't adopt a fee, we're going to increase property taxes to reach the 24 million, which is, say, a $12.4 million increase.
No, I think that's everything you said is 100% right, but the only thing I felt was missing is making sure we're being open and truthful to residents to know that you're not really paying $320 now. You are paying $160 now. So you will go up, but I get it. The only other, I have one other question on town and the region will pay the fees. And when I see that, it sounds good, but the town and the region are going to pay the fees, but that's going to be collected from the taxpayer also. There's no other, unless you have some magic box you can pull money out of. Is that correct?
Well, Councillor, the property tax is not our only revenue. So to a degree, anything we pay comes from property tax, but it's whatever we pay is spread across all our sources of revenue.
Except for speed cameras as we go forward. I thank you. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Councillor Elgar, for raising that, because the explanation now assists me. In the beginning, I was trying to understand why you went with half the total cost in the first year, followed by 5 million and then 7 million in the final year. And what the explanation I now understand is the 160 lowers by $25, key or best case scenario. So it shouldn't impact them, other than, as the mayor had indicated, with the budget process being what it is and whatever's on the wish list for increases. So is that the rationale for going with the 12 mil the first year versus 3 years equally?
We're just trying to feather it in, Councillor.
That's what I was trying to ask, is feathering it in rather than going with 3 equal amounts. Are you trying to arrive at an amount close to what they're currently paying in our stormwater fee on the tax?
At the end of the 3 years, assuming passage, there would no longer be any stormwater on the operating budget, and
That's correct.
And we will be whole on the stormwater fee, and the interval will be a transition.
Yes, I understand that. However, Your Worship, I'm trying to understand why 12 the first year, followed by 5 and then 7 in the final. Because most cases you go with 3 equal amounts to get you to that final go up. That was my question, not the phasing in. It was the amount they selected in the initial year.
So those 3 numbers add up to 24.
I realize that, Your Worship. What I'm meaning is when someone looks at 12 mil for the first year for an increase, they're not, that it comes back to the explanation, okay, in terms of how it's impacting them. It won't if we stay true to what we're supposed to be doing and not increasing costs, then yes, it will be lower. That was my question, just why the numbers for the phase in. Given that growth is a key factor in addition to the climate change, is there funding that we can be expecting? I know we get it periodically from the provincial or the federal government, but is there something, given our implementing this program and being so proactive in addressing our stormwater, is there something we can go to our colleagues in Ottawa or Queen's Park to get funding?
Through you, Mayor Burton, there is a disaster mitigation fund that would qualify us for funding if we implement solutions that increase our resiliency.
And what kind of figure are we looking at for that?
It ranges, it's per application base, and you submit based on the projects you have, and I don't recall the funding split off the top of my head.
Okay.
One way, Councillor, to look at that is they did have at least 2 major flooding disasters in a city near us. And,
Yes.
And at the region of Halton, compensation and other measures, money has been spent, 42 cents of every dollar of which comes from Oakville.
Correct.
And no disaster funds were obtained for those remediations. So
Okay.
I continue to suggest that we are the makers, not the takers.
Okay. And given that we've not completed, or it's not been shared with the public, maybe it's been completed, for the costs on Midtown, will those costs be in addition to this?
Through you, Mayor Burton, no, the Midtown costs would be funded from DCs or other sources of funding. This program is strictly dealing with infrastructure renewal of our existing assets, as well as improvements needed.
Okay, but I'm assuming we're going to have infrastructure improvements made as a result of the Palermo and Midtown. Has that been factored in?
Through you, Mayor Burton, if I can just add, most of the stormwater requirements as a result of new development is not covered in development charges. It's actually funded by the developer when they build the project. So that's the bulk of the way that in new development areas, that's how we fund stormwater improvements, and it's built to the standard that we require in that day, which is different when you look over history. But that's the predominant way that it's happening. The Midtown work that's happening, that's being done on stormwater, is trying to understand from a collective perspective what needs to be done so we can deliver that infrastructure more effectively.
Okay, sounds good. Councillor Elgar asked the other in terms of the costs and how it's being rolled in. When will the appeal process be completed, and what type of criteria would enable somebody to be eligible for that? Has the details been finalized? Because that's one thing I keep getting asked, and they say when they've inquired, they keep saying, no, there is no appeal process. So I want to give some comfort to some of the people who want to make sure that there is going to be something in place.
Through you, Mayor Burton, the appeal process or the criteria has been outlined in the bylaw. I think it's Appendix C of the bylaw, which kind of outlines the criteria. The process itself would need to be developed on how they submit their appeal to the town staff, but that's what we're working on right now, and we would have it developed and communicated well before the actual first bill goes out.
Excellent. That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dudek, for very helpful questions. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of questions, and I'm going to get into the weeds on this, Catherine. Let's look at single residential properties and how you compare them. There is a capping, I think it was 273 for residential. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton, on this, if we use the stormwater fee method, a single detached home would pay $273.
Okay.
Flat, no variation. Everyone would pay the same.
Okay, so a property that might be frontage of 45 feet and backage of maybe 60 is going to pay the same amount of money as a large estate that might have 2 or 3 acres on?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, that is correct.
Okay, I've got, I have an issue with that one, folks. Is there any way that we can do a calculation, if you're at the capping, if you're at the capping, whatever that measurement or whatever that criteria we use, anything above that, there should be an added charge because of the size of the property? Is that any consideration with that?
Through the mayor to the councillor. When we looked at the tiers that we were considering for residential properties, we came up with that small, medium, and large. So the single residential properties, we did a calculation of lots of different options and permutations. And we decided on those groupings because there's little enough difference between a small single residential property and those very large residential properties when you actually calculate the rate. So only dollars of difference, because the impervious area or the runoff calculation, the runoff coefficient was similar. So even though they're quite large areas, they're mostly grassed in those large properties. And so the difference between them was only dollars. So you're right, if we went to small, medium, and extra small, there would be further equity. But we didn't feel like it was a balance between administrative effort and the ease to implement, and the difference was just the sort of cost-benefit analysis wasn't worthwhile. You get a diminishing return as you split those categories up further. So really, there would only be dollars in difference, and we didn't feel that was worth it. So we really chose to emphasize more the non-residential properties where there's vast differences in a small property and a large property because it's all paved area.
Thank you for the answer, but it doesn't solve my issue with respect to the difference. So people have large estates and so forth. They're getting a break where the mid-size ones are paying the max, whatever that may be. So I see. We have to understand, and I understand how the administrative part of this, it's perception we're going to have a problem with, as all of us around here as council. We're going to have to answer these and saying why, because that's what they'll understand. Why is this person who's got 4 acres getting the same amount, and I've only got a little frontage, and I'm paying the same amount of money? That's the issues that are at hand here. I understand the logic of what you're doing, but it's going to create problems once this gets to the public and it's in actualization.
To follow up through you, Mayor, to the councillor, when we look at precedents in other municipalities, we've got lots of different options that they calculate these rates through. So one of them is, for example, in Mississauga, where they actually measure the impervious area. And those large areas, like I said, are often a lot of green space, and the more urban, sort of smaller areas tend to have less green space. And so the amount of paved area, the amount of infiltration capacity is not that big of a difference, even though the land parcel itself is larger. So again, I agree with you, there's a perception issue, but in our calculations, that's what we found and it is a precedent across other municipalities in Ontario.
So how do we evaluate or put in place with respect to the hard surfaces in large properties where they have pools, they've got patios, they've got all kinds of hard surfaces around? How do we calculate that?
Well, there's lots of different ways that other municipalities do it. So you can go more detailed where you actually go out and measure with a photograph, an aerial photograph, and you calculate and measure every single bit of impervious area, and then you charge based on impervious area. So again, through this project, through the consultation, through our technical work, we had to make a compromise. So some municipalities only have one residential flat fee. So all residential properties would pay the same flat fee. So we chose to go with small, medium, and large to provide some variance in that and to make it more equitable. But again, didn't go to the larger, the more categories.
So the calculation, as I understand, is on the coefficient runoff. It's not based on the size of the property. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton. We are using the coefficient for the different property categories. I just wanted to add one other point to to maybe help ease your mind a little bit in terms of why we decided to go with one flat rate for single detached. We did use our data scientists to actually take all the property sizes and plot them on a map, or on a chart, I should say, and to look at that variability across the board. And we did find over 70% were in and around that average mark. And I think we found there was less than 0.5% with the very small properties and less than 0.5%, in the very large property category. So I think we felt for the administrative effort of going property by property that the flat fee did represent an overall average for that single detached category, and chose to go with that to balance out that administrative cost.
Okay. My next question is with respect to having the report, understand it, but I'll be concerned with the public on this one, okay? Your process, what you went through, is a process that the town does in their community engagement and their community development and everything. Understand that. This is a way above what we do on a regular basis. This is 30 years and over $700 million. If I'm going to my residents and saying, this is what it is, we need to do a little bit more due diligence on getting this to the public. I think Councillor Duddick mentioned maybe we should be putting in this in the tax receipts, whatever. We need to get to door to door. We need to get to the businesses, because I'm going to be frank here. I think there's a lot of businesses and residents don't know this. And then when they see this on their bill, look out. We're going to have some challenges, and I don't want to be reactive, but to be proactive. But I think we need to spend more time with our communications department how we can get this infiltration more into the public with respect to that. The other comment is the town and region will pay, and I think Councillor Algar brought this up too, that we're going to pay the stormwater fees for our facilities and so forth. I have a concern about that because indirectly that's taxpayers' money. So it seems like we're double taxing them by doing that. So I know it's out of scope, but I think it's very relative to the report and how we deal with that. Again, it's going to be the perception and how we going to present this to the public. And I want, you want to make sure it is clear and concise, and the clarity we have to look at. The other thing I did indicate back when, and I'd like to see this back in the report, and I got to make sure I clear my words right on this one. When I brought forward that when we're going to have this money come into a reserve, segregated fund, whatever we call it, we need to tell the public where the money's being spent, where it's going. I'd like to see those projects listed now. The money's one thing to bring in, but we need to list, we probably have it in the report, but I mean on a communication, we need to tell the public what's going to happen in 2027, what's going to happen in 2028. There's got to be a list. They got to see the action with that. Because I've got residents saying, oh, it's just going in the general coffers, and it's just another tax, and you're taxing us again. That's out there, folks, and we really need to do our homework on that. Right now, I don't think we're there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to support this report. I would like to make a amendment or a recommendation to defer it for a year until we cross all our T's and dot our I's on this one. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Chisholm has moved deferral. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Nanda. All right. Does anybody object to the deferral? It's close, but the deferral fails. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, do you need more time? Councillor O'Meara, you're next.
Thank you very much. And I'm actually looking forward to hearing the delegations too. I know that there's been a fun conversation over rainwater, if that's a thing, but I appreciate for that. I have a question about the plaza. I think on slide 9 you had the large plaza retail area. Those from what I understand with TMI, those businesses in there wouldn't have any say in order to achieve any of the improvements because they don't make the changes to the business. They just pay the rent and they pay the taxes. So how do we incentivize or how do we hold responsible the plaza owners so that they are the ones who pay this fee and don't pass it off to the individual businesses who do not have the opportunity to make those changes to the place in order to lower their fees?
Through you, Mayor Burton, that is the challenge, I guess, with any property owner that rents out their properties. I'm not sure if you have any ideas of how that's been done in the past.
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor. I liken it, and it really is like legally like any other rate. So you think of it like paying for your drinking water or paying for your wastewater. If there's a landlord that has a leaky cistern and is wasting water but still charging their tenants, it's the same thing. So really, it's up to the tenants to be good stewards of their properties and be able to pass on those savings where possible to them. So I think it's really helpful when you're thinking about landlord and tenant situations. It's a rate like a stormwater rate, like a wastewater rate, and it helps to sort of think how it should be dealt with. It's exactly the same way.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the motivation that we're going to be needing to get big plaza owners or big leasees of commercial spaces to move on these things, but I'll park that one for a minute. In terms of the business capacity, so we're charging per 100 square feet. Are we delineating between whether it's a small footprint and uses airspace, or it's a wide 2-story building that takes up, like, is it all 100 square meters and that's it? It doesn't matter how it's structured in terms of the displacement of water on the property then?
Through you, Mayor Burton, it is just 100 meters per floor area, I guess you could say. Ground area.
Okay, so yeah, that I have a problem with that. I mean, we're trying to.
Councillor, I believe she's telling you, look, the opposite of what you're thinking. It's the ground coverage, not the total of the floors, I heard her to say.
Sorry, the ground, sorry, I apologize. It's actual property square footage.
Okay. Lot line to lot line. Okay, sorry, I thought it was the building envelope. No, okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that clarification. Are we obliged to maintain these assets under the legislation? I saw the regulation was up there in Ontario, but do we have a choice to just not proceed with making these investments and these improvements or are we legally obligated to be doing this asset management through the provincial government?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we are obligated to have an asset management plan for all of our infrastructure, which demonstrates that we are maintaining them in a state of good repair and that they're functioning as intended. And we're required to have a financial plan that supports those needs.
Okay, so we need to spend $24 million a year no matter what, because we are legally required to be doing that then. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have some questions after the delegates speak too, but my last one was really on the price differentiation. And I know we showed what it would cost for $1 million home. What I have some problems with are, what does it cost? What did it cost a $3 million home that they were paying as a percentage of their property tax to what it is now to what, say, a $600,000 detached home will have to pay? And we've read a lot in here about equitable and fairness, and when you take a look now at what the price is going to come down from a $4 million home to $273, and what a house that was $800,000, they're going to be paying more to hit that equity mark with the low-rise residential. I think some people are going to have a real hard time swallowing that pill when they look at some of the more expensive houses, and perhaps the people who are more apt to be supporting this get a discount, and the people who might be struggling to pay some of their lower houses, they're going to be paying more to get into this. So what would it cost for us to do that assessment on 60,000 homes? Did we price that out?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I'm not sure what it would cost, but we probably could do a little bit of a comparison there. Although I would go back to Ms. Warburton's explanation that when we're looking at how to fund stormwater, it's not fair to use the assessment base as the way to collect the taxes, because not all properties contribute runoff. In particularly with the residential sector, we see on average, they do kind of contribute about the same amount of runoff, regardless of the size of the property.
Yeah, I wasn't so much speaking about assessment of just property value, but who's got a basketball court in their backyard, who's got a swimming pool, who has total concrete scape, who has 30 trees in their backyard, who has swales. I mean, that sort of, because we're trying to incentivize people to do the right thing here as well. We're not just, you know, somebody's gonna say, well, it doesn't matter, I pay $230 anyways, or $280, so I'm going wheel to wheel with concrete in my backyard because it doesn't matter to me. I'm not getting penalized for it. So if this is a 30-year program, do we need to make that investment so that people might think twice about, I'm just gonna, you know, hardscape my entire backyard? I mean, is this the time we do that now, if anything, to alter behavior?
Certainly through Mr. Chair. I think it's important that we recognize we want everyone to alternate the behavior to be more climate friendly. And one of the things that we did look at is similar to Mississauga. What they did was they measure every single roof, every single basketball court, or the pools. And what they did is they hired a team of 5 people, if not more, on a yearly basis to actually maintain that system to go. Because every time you change your landscaping, or if you change your backyard and you redevelop your backyard, then there's a change. So there's an extensive amount of administrative process. So as we mentioned, we're trying to be fair and equitable relative to administrative burden. In our proposal, we're looking at 1 person to administer the whole I'll say the financing side of the fee, and rest of the staff to build capital works to provide us more resiliency. So I just want to say there's a balance there. We could go in to measure every single property and every single roof, but we did using statistics and data, and as using the data scientists, and we run a lot of analysis with lots of different curves and bells, and at the end, as Catherine mentioned, over 70% of the properties in the single detached category fits that category, and only about 0.5 and 0.5 are the really small and the really large. So we generally cover more than half, and we feel that that's a fair, equitable way without adding administrative burden to the town, which will then increase the fee.
Okay, thank you. I'm good for now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, $732 million over 30 years. Does that include inflation?
Through you, Mayor Burton, no, that's costed in 2024 dollars, which follows our typical budget process. So every year when we present a 10-year program, the whole 10-year program is in today's dollars. And then, as you know, each year when we present the new program, we update the costs.
And so looking forward 30 years, that 700-ish would be ballpark $3 billion?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I'm not sure.
No, just looking at some of the reports we see and the cost of infrastructure and bridges and sidewalks and everything else, I think we've all been pretty surprised in terms of the construction inflation. Just wondering if we come back with this, I'd appreciate further details, because that could cause that $273 to go up fairly quickly. The tax-based model not being equitable, I get it. I appreciate some of the comments made by some of my council colleagues. How did Mississauga have that 4th level? Do they have 3 levels similar to what we have, plus a 4th on top?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I think they actually have 5 different tiers, and they estimate it based on roof size of a number of different properties.
All right, and they had 5 staffers working nonstop for a while. Is there an AI component to this in terms of looking at the satellite imaging and some bright young data scientists that can do a pretty close approximation by looking at geothermal for green space and then the rooftops?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I have heard that they are starting to use some AI to get more specific in understanding the imperviousness of individual properties. I'll just maybe add that in embarking on this process, some of our focus was to be able to bring some more equity. And as you see, we have demonstrated, using the runoff method, that there is a desired shift away from the residential to the non-residential sector to represent sort of more of the hard services that we are seeing. Down the road, we have committed to reevaluating our fee methodology in 5-6 years' time. So there may be opportunity to do a different methodology. I know a number of other municipalities that have had their fee underway for a few years did reevaluate just recently. But I think in speaking, we did speak with multiple municipalities, and they all recommended that we start with something simple and easy to understand and administer. And the intent would be to learn and then get a little more complex as we go further down the road.
Or as programs or AI becomes developed.
Exactly.
So I understand the optics of the town paying fees for our own buildings. I just have difficulty with us adding that onto the taxpayers for our buildings.
Through you, Mayor Burton, we did present some analysis at the June 2nd council workshop where we showed you what the fees would be if we removed the town properties and the regional properties. And it does increase the fees substantially because we do own a number of properties across the town. So at the time, some of the feedback we heard was that in order to show and demonstrate our environmental stewardship as well, we would charge ourselves the fee, and which I know is somewhat counterintuitive because it does have to be funded somewhat. But in terms of representing the true principle of the fee itself and the amount of runoff being contributed to different properties, we felt it was best to represent ourselves in that methodology.
Fair enough, and that's been factored into the $273?
That is correct.
Looking at charging places of worship, for example, we have a regional program to encourage people from disconnecting their downspouts from the storm sewers. Would an education portion of this be in place as well to work with places of worship or some of the other buildings that are detailed where they may have green space where they can put it on top of their community gardens, do whatever to assist them, us, getting rid of that water into the landscape and rewarding them for that?
Through you, Mayor Burton, just to clarify there, the places of worship we have recommended to be exempt from the stormwater fee.
Even better.
Similar to how they don't pay property taxes now. So everyone who is exempt from property taxes will continue to be exempt in the stormwater fee method.
All right, and I concur with Councillor Chisholm in terms of the 2-acre size lot versus the 60 by 100 or whatever. Went on at length last time, my apologies. I still think it's important to look at whether the house is on alluvial silt with 20 or 30 trees and they've participated in the regional gutter disconnection. Compare that to perhaps a much smaller house that has a tennis court, a basketball court, and paved the front yard for 3 cars. Just a comment, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Thank you for the presentation. I know there's a lot of details, but I think one of the things we're starting to notice, and the reason why I supported Councillor Chisholm's deferral, is there still needs to be more communication, and I think education to our community, because a lot of the questions that we're still asking, our residents are asking of us. Like, for example, we're saying it's a fee versus taxes. I got questions about that. People don't understand that. How would you explain that this is a fee versus taxes when it is coming out of the taxes?
So through you, Mayor Burton, I guess in regards to the whole communication engagement, we have done, I think, fairly extensive program with having the 3 rounds of communication. The struggle has been, you know, along with that, there was multiple social media and multiple newsletters and news releases to try to get the community to come out and engage. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, maybe there are other things going on, we have a lot of other big programs, Transportation Master Plan, Midtown, and other things. We did, as much as we put out all our efforts, we recognize that there wasn't a lot of engagement at the time, and it is something that we strive to work towards in developing a fulsome communication plan on the go forward in terms of helping them understand the fees and why we've shifted it off the property tax. So
Okay,
not
so
sure if that
I
answers
think
your
the
question, but
I think the question is there that it's still coming, like a property owner is paying property taxes and then you're taking the fee from the taxes.
Correct.
So in their minds, like Councillor Elgar said, if it was 160 and now it becomes 300, in their minds, they are paying more taxes.
So if I could jump in here, Mayor Burton, you're quite right. They're still paying for those costs. Those costs are there. That's the cost of our infrastructure. As Catherine had said, through our asset management, it's something that we need to pay over time period. I think the major difference is this, is where you get to pay it in a way that is more equitable to what you use. Because at this point in time, you're paying a much higher, as a resident, you're paying a much higher rate because you're subsidizing, I'll say, the commercial properties who actually generate most of the stormwater. And so the benefit of shifting to a fee is that now users pay for what they generate in stormwater. So that's a significant change in the way in which it's taxed. It still is a tax, you're quite right, but we feel that it's a much more equitable way in order to generate the appropriate funds to pay for that infrastructure that's essential.
So I think then where the question comes back again, and there was an email that was sent earlier to where a resident was asking, okay, if there's a townhouse in a semi-detached that has more runoff than a detached home, but they're only paying $60, and the detached home is paying $273. I think that's the difficulty with understanding for some people. There's the larger land, there's so many different sizes, and I think that's where it comes into, okay, what is Mississauga doing? Because people are also going the opposite way. Okay, there's some smaller properties that are using more runoff than bigger properties. So how do we differentiate between that?
So it's a difficult question, I'm sure, to explain. But through the analysis that we've done, we understand the individual properties throughout the town. We have calculated what their runoff would be. And sure, we've only put them into 3 tiers rather than individual properties, which is the approach that Mississauga used. But we're confident in the data that we've looked at to make sure that we're bringing forward a fair program to simplify them into the 3 tiers, rather than build an administrative piece on the other end to make it absolutely equitable. So that's the recommendation that we have in front of you. As I think you heard from the commissioner, the administration of individual calculations of what your permeable surface is an onerous piece, and felt it wasn't justified when we looked across all the properties in the town.
Okay. But I do think we added a new issue to the table, which is now the residents are going to ask, why are we paying for town property? Town and regional. So I think what we've done here now is on top of what we're expecting them to pay, we're also saying, in addition to that, we're also asking you to pay for all the town and regional properties. So I'm not sure where we go, and that's why I said I supported the deferral, was more, for some reason now, when it has come out and right before budget, there's more engagement now. And so now more residents seem to be aware that this is happening now and will be coming up in the budget. And so I'm not sure if we do go from there to see if we can get more consultation or public engagement, better understanding from also the businesses, because they're quite worried at how much they're gonna end up paying now. And then my one other question was, if this did not go through, if it was not approved and you only have the 12 million, what was the additional 12 million gonna be put forth for next year?
So through you, Mayor Burton, I'll answer that question first. So the original 12 million primarily is focused on state of good repair for our stormwater pipes, creek erosion, stormwater pond cleanouts, that typical thing. The increased funding was allowing us to implement some improvements that have been identified from various, I say, risk assessment studies done the past several years. The Stormwater Master Plan, for one, identified a number of areas that could benefit from improvements to reduce the risk. We have a number of riverine studies that have been undertaken with other recommendations. And we also have a flood risk study along the harbors, and some of those improvements to date. That category of work has not been affordable within our capital plan. So we would be looking at, over the next 10 years, being able to implement some of those capital works that we haven't been able to afford if we were to approve sort of the phased-in implementation to the 24 million over 3 years like we've recommended. If it gets deferred, then a lot of those improvements would have to continue to be unfunded.
Okay.
And I just wanted to clarify, I know it sounds, today the taxpayers are paying the town's property to manage stormwater on the tax levy today. So as much as we'd be paying ourselves and putting it back, it really isn't an impact in their overall picture of things. It just changes the dynamic of how that fee gets calculated at the end of the day.
Okay. And so I think that this should just also go into future development. Up north, we're building, smaller and smaller spaces, less space, which isn't giving the opportunity for enough green space, or, so we have more concrete up there just because of how we're developing. So, I mean, if we looked into that too, right, it would help this runoff. But thank you.
Councillor, I just want to make sure you heard the CAO talk about how the developers build and pay for the stormwater infrastructure in the new areas.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay. All right. Great. Councillor Shia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 questions. One, would you clarify on page 105? So there is the estimated need for 7 new staff, which will be 100% funded by this fee. So would you explain this? This is like, for me, is create a new department, have 7 new staff for doing this only?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Essentially, because the program size of the capital delivery would be doubling in size, and the types of projects that we're looking to implement are a little more complex and require a lot more interagency communication and coordination, as well as community engagement and communication. So the majority of those staff, you're right, would be looking to create a new stormwater unit with a manager, a couple of project leaders, and an inspector. One of those FTEs as well, to respond to feedback that we did hear from the non-residential community, would be an FTE to help administer the credit program. We did hear from them that they would like to see a lot of support from town staff in navigating that process. So we have included an FTE on that regard as well. And then the other FTE is on the finance side to manage the billing and inquiries.
In another way, that's saying the $24 million funding for every year for this include this salary, this cost, right?
Yes, it does, through you, Mayor Burton. When we brought the original estimate forward to council in 2023, one of the feedback we did receive was to estimate what it would cost on our side to deliver the program and administer the fee. So we did estimate those numbers and included in the $24 million annual costs. I think it's about an annual of about $500,000.
Okay, thank you. The last question is, through the report, there's our business owners and non-residential property owners, they request implementation this plan delay until 2027. So what's our response?
Well, we hadn't seen that response when we prepared the report. We did hear some feedback from the non-residential community, which spawned the phase-in of the fee to accommodate that request. So rather than starting with $24 million in year one, we would start at the $12 million, which is similar to the same level we are funding today, and then grow it over 3 years. And that would help lessen the impact.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm, before we come to you for a second time, let's go to Councillor Adams for a first time.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to clarify the issue of charging the region a fee. One of the arguments for that is that it allows Burlington, Milton, and Halton Hills to pay us some money. So there's a benefit to us to do that, and there it is. I agree that there's more education and communication materials needed for the public. I think that will come and needs to come as part of the rollout process of it, and I'm sure that you guys are getting the message that that's needed. So I won't speak to the matter at hand. I'm supportive of it because basically you can choose to make residents pay more in their property taxes, or you can make them save some money by doing this. And so I choose this.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Chisholm. No, Councillor Hazetil, have we heard from you already? I think we have, actually. No? Then you get to go before Ray.
Sorry, Ray. Through you, Mayor Burton. Could you just pull up that chart one more time that has the 320, the 273 chart? Okay. Okay. So just because numbers matter and the magnitude of the number matter, that 320 becomes 160 if it was a $12 million property tax method. Have I got that part right? Okay. The 273 becomes 137, give or take. Is that right? And if we phase in that amount, would we phase in that amount?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I think you're trying to get at the 273 in year one would be half of that amount.
Correct.
Correct. So $137 compared to $160 of today's dollars.
Right. So they're paying 160 now, let's give or take. This comes into, it's phased in, it's 137 or whatever that is. And then eventually, though, it will be more than the 160. Have I got all my math right? Okay. So then the other part that I want to just understand is you've done all the research. Did other municipalities choose any credit system for the residential community?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I believe there are a handful that do have credit, maybe not credit programs, but rebate incentives for residential homeowners.
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, I believe Kitchener-Waterloo is the only municipality that has residential credit program.
Okay. And if I recall correctly, part of the analysis of that is the magnitude of what you would reimburse as you weighed the full-time FTE costs of administering it was why you took it off the table in your recommendation?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I've got that straight in my head. The other that I wanted to just understand a bit more was, can you go to the chart that has the businesses?
I think he's got it.
Okay. So in the discussion with business owners that came, did they see this chart? Did they see this math? And did we give them some examples of here's what it would look like for you in that consultation?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, we did provide some examples in the public information sessions on the non-residential examples.
Okay. And including how they could reduce that. There's another chart that does a good job of showing how much it's reduced by if they do the things we want them to do, which is reduce non-permeable and be more manage the runoff better. So they have seen all of this.
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, they have seen the before and after with the credit reduction.
Okay. And in terms of their pushback on the credits, was there any feedback on the credit amount?
On the credit amount itself?
The 40% that you've used as a max.
I don't believe we received any at the time when we were consulting. The feedback we heard on the credit program was wanting some assistance in making the process simple and easy to follow and having some guidance from town staff.
Yeah, because in fairness to them, their business is totally different than how do I do this? Okay. I asked you earlier about how you got to the 50% max. I don't know, I come from the school of if I go over and above, I'd like the reward to be pretty significant. So do you really feel that the 50% is the max that we would give to somebody who has really gone above and beyond to implement all of the elements that you have suggested? Because when you total them all up, they're worth a lot more than 50%.
Through you, Mayor Burton, Ms. Warburton did provide an explanation on why the 50% was the maximum. No matter how much runoff is being controlled on a property, at some point every surface becomes impermeable and runs off into the town system. So there's a certain amount of cost that's required for the town to cover its costs. I think if we did debate actually at looking at the minimum requirement of 40% being less to make the incentive greater. However, we felt at this time that we still wanted to incentivize and recognize where good stormwater measures are already in practice. Because some of the I guess, incentive is not only just the installation of it, but ensuring that over the long term, that these infrastructure are continue to be maintained and operate effectively. A stormwater management pond sitting on a private property that is full of sediment and will get filled up within 10 minutes of rain is not providing us any benefit. So the 40% is to help incentivize homeowners to come in and do the work and also maintain their infrastructure on an ongoing basis. So I don't know if that answered your question or if you had anything further to add.
I want to thank you for that explanation. I think that should have helped some people understand what we're trying to accomplish. At some point, none of us like to pay more. We all recognize that, we were in Calgary, I think all of us, when some infrastructure failed that was pretty significant, and the impact to that community, not to us alone. I mean, none of us could have showers for 2 or 3 days in the hotel, but the impact to that community overall was devastating. And you've got to sustain these systems and rebuild the ones. And I'm looking forward to the delegations because I'm not sure where I'm going to land at the final hour, but when you mentioned the risk assessment, I really believe that has not come through to people about the importance of us getting to addressing what came out in these risk assessments. Because when you understand that the seriousness of what could happen, you may start to say, okay, so 160, 180, stage it in. You might start to get your head around it.
Well, thank you for that feedback.
Alrighty. I think, Councillor Elgar, you're back. Because Ray took his hand down.
I'll be fast. Through you, Mayor Burton, that last slide you had up there just before you dropped it, is that an actual 3 properties in Oakville that we could relate to? Or is it just in the random example?
Through you, Mayor Burton, they are actual Oakville examples.
Could you give us the actual addresses of these? I don't need them right now, but I think that says a lot right there. I think people can envision if they know where that is specifically.
I think we chose to leave the addresses off for confidentiality.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Chisholm.
I'm back. I guess where it really boils down to it, and congratulations on the report. It's very detailed. I mean, the devil's in the details, absolutely, and how we're going to do this. And I think tonight you've explained there is fluidity with this project. I guess this council has been summons for 30-year approvals. And I think this is something out of the ordinary for our council to be approving 30-year projects. We've got Midtown, and now we have this, and this is a big decision to be made for our public and for our residents of Oakville. So, thank you very much for answering all the questions. Where I think we really need to go back and do our, I'm not deferring, is on the communication piece. Our CEO, Jane Closey, made it very succinct, which I just picked up. Perfect. That's what we need to message. We need to message it is a high risk. These are the things that are happening. So we're being proactive. So we've really got to message that. And our communications, it's got to start now. If we want to move forward, when we move forward with this, we've got to have our residents on site and understanding it for all of Oakville. But unfortunately, sometimes we have residents, it impacts their own property themselves. That's all they see. They need to see the bigger picture. And it's going to be a challenge for staff to get those messages out and getting to those target markets and individuals, because I'm still not convinced, the process that we had through, we still need to get to our residents, because there's a lot of people out there and a lot of business don't know what this is all about. So I'd like to hear from the presentations from our residents tonight. I think there's some good, valuable information I think is going to come forward tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. I assure you no one is going to be holding communications back. They will be on the ice. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, I believe it's now possible to call the delegations.
Thank you, Mayor. Nicole Sylvester.
Welcome, Ms. Sylvester. Council looks forward to your information.
Do I have to turn this on? Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And I do have a presentation, yes. Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Nicole Sylvester. I'm a civil engineer at Trafalgar Engineering. Trafalgar Engineering is based out of Oakville and has been supporting land development and municipal infrastructure projects for over 30 years. I'm here to speak on behalf of our clients that we've had in the past and will have in the future, as well as a professional who supports investing in stormwater infrastructure and climate resiliency in a fair and transparent manner. Next slide, please. The Rainwater Management Plan identifies a total of $732 million required over the next 30 years, so about $24 million a year. But is this the right annual funding target we should be using? So what makes up that $32 million? I've gone through some of the reports that have the costs embedded in them, and it's kind of hard to find or understand the scope and what these projects entail. For transparency and fiscal responsibility, there should be a detailed project list with timing and costs, similar to what we would expect from a DC charge study or your capital budget list, so the public can understand what is this tax for, what's included, and why does it need to double. For context, the new stormwater tax of $24 million will represent 10% of the town's 2025 total capital operating budget. Let's keep in mind, we are collecting $12 million currently through property tax, and that's going to remain. Whether you choose to put it in this bucket or this bucket, the tax dollars are still coming from the property taxpayers. So realistically, the new stormwater tax could focus on the other $12 million, and the town would meet the total $24 million funding requirement. What about the opportunity for funding or grants through provincial and federal levels? For example, on one of the topics tonight, there was, I guess, a point about $3 million from the federal government for stormwater improvements. We also can consider the over $100 million that are currently in capital reserves that could be used to partially offset any emergency or project costs that come up in the short term while we're building the funds. So once this new tax is approved, it's only going to go up. The way I see it is that there's far less pressure to collect a full $24 million currently recommended, and we may be more in the range of 10 to 12 million. Next slide, please. Many business owners are just learning about this new tax for the first time, either at this meeting or recently in the summer. The community engagement, I feel, has not been effective in informing the business community. I've attended many of the in-person public meetings as well as the online ones, and there was a handful of people, and the same ones. So it seems too soon to approve this tonight. I hear messaging that we need to do further engagement. I don't know how you approve it while also recognizing more engagement needs to happen. The amount of participation in these public meetings are like in the 1% range of people in Oakville. So I think it's too low to infer broad support. I'd also like to recommend calling this a stormwater tax. I think calling it a fee could imply that it's like a user fee, like if I do this, I will pay a fee. This is a tax that no one has a choice to accept or deny. Next slide, please. So the credits at 40 to 50%, I feel won't move the needle. And considering the cost of permit applications to the town, realistically, there's just too much red tape for a property, for a non-residential property, to look to get the permits in place to make any changes to their property. A site plan application fee can cost $5,000 to $10,000 for the fee alone. For a small or medium-sized business, this could take over 5 years to recover the costs of just making an application. Then you have to add on the construction fees, the consulting fees. And what about the properties that have been developed in the past that at that time met all stormwater management requirements when they were built? We have clients who have in the past developed large pieces of property, met all stormwater requirements at the time, including providing lands for the stormwater management pond. Now, these properties may get zero credit for these stormwater works because they are off-site. They are owned and maintained by the municipality. And so there are no on-site controls. Next slide, please. The staff report, and we heard tonight, recommends 7 full-time employees, 1 for the administration of the program, and 6 to support the increase in capital program delivery. So for transparency, I have a question. How many staff currently manage the $12 million stormwater portfolio to manage those projects? And are 6 additional staff actually required? My experience is many of these infrastructure projects, you hire a consultant to do the communication, to do the coordination, to do the outreach. So staff are involved. I'm having a hard time understanding how it's 6 staff, I guess. And next slide, please. So through you, Mayor Burton, I feel the residents and the businesses community can support this new tax if they can see the projects, the timelines, and the value. I think we need to start with collecting the true funding requirements, prepare a 30-year list, engage with businesses, and make the credits usable. And let's keep overhead costs lean. That's how we can build a program that's affordable, transparent, and effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Councillor, the questions? Thank you. Councillor Hazlet-Deal has a question for you.
Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you for obviously showing up at the public consultation meetings and taking notes. We welcome that. I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. You're feeling strongly that it's 10 to 12 million that we need, but I'm not 100% clear on how you ended up at that number.
So the 732 million broken down is 24 million a year.
Yeah.
We currently collect, or the town currently collects $12 million annually through property tax to fund stormwater projects. That's been what's discussed. So unless that $12 million is being completely removed from the capital budget and moved to this program, then that $12 million is still being collected through property tax.
So one option, which isn't on the table tonight, is that at budget, we do something different about what the tax rate would be. Okay, but your other part of that is show me the 30-year list of all those projects.
Right.
Which a couple of my colleagues, I think, also mentioned. So it's crystal clear this is what we would be spending the money on. Okay. I thank you very much for coming out and your patience tonight.
Councillor Adams for Ms. Sylvester.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify, the intent is that the initial 12 million that's currently in our budget comes out of the property taxes. So it's not double dipping. I think there's been some communication out there in the internet world saying that that's what's happening, and that's not what's happening. And through the budget process, there would be a list of capital projects that would be funded through the new fee, and that would be clear as to which projects are getting funded through the stormwater fee. So I think we would get to that situation that you're describing there.
Through you, Your Worship. It is I guess, good timing because those budget conversations are happening. And so how, I guess my question back is, it's one thing to say it, but how do we ensure that property taxes, if it's recommended to go up 3.5%, is that, or whatever the number is that above this decrease of $12 million?
That's up to council to decide what things they're going to spend on. But the question of how are we funding stormwater plans, capital projects, that's what we're talking about tonight. And so one way or the other, we need to fund these projects. That's what it comes to. So anyway, thank you very much for the material.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sylvester.
Thank you.
Ms. Hewitson?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I was just going to add that, yes, through the 2026 budget, we would be presenting a detailed project list of the 10-year program that would be recommended.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the next delegation?
France Fournier.
Ms. Fournier, welcome back to council. Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening, Mayor Burton, members of council, staff. My name is France Fournier. I'm the president and CEO of the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. Through you, Mayor Burton, I'm here this evening representing our board of directors and the members of the chamber. We recognize and sincerely appreciate the town's commitment to maintaining and renewing Oakville's stormwater infrastructure, and we value the town's engagement with the chamber throughout this process. As council deliberates this option, we urge careful consideration of the impact on Oakville businesses. I've heard a lot tonight about the impact on residents. I am a 30-year resident of this town, and I am engaged and impacted as well as anyone else, but so are our businesses, and I hear that every day. Our position is informed by several meetings with town staff and consultants, as well as discussions with members of the chamber community and many of Oakville's largest employers whose representatives sit on our advocacy committee. The proposed tax structure based on runoff will shift a significant portion of cost onto businesses. Oakville's businesses are managing uncertainty and significant cost increases. For some, this has led to difficult decisions, cutting back, delay of investments, and even at times relocating. These inflationary pressures ripple through our community, affecting jobs, goods, and services. There was a lot of talk tonight about awareness, and there is a gap in awareness. The chamber did a survey itself, and it highlights some real concerns. Nearly 80% of respondents had not heard of the proposed tax. And of those who were aware, more than 80% did not understand the fee structure and how much it would increase their cost. Over 60% said they would need to exceed 50%. The incentives would need to exceed 50% before they would consider investing in upgrades. I appreciate your comments, Councillor Adams, but there is uncertainty as to what happens to the existing $12 million that is being collected. We addressed that in a letter to staff in July, and it was not responded to in that. So it would be good, I think, for residents and businesses as well, that there is clarity as to what is happening to that $12 million that is currently being collected. Funds raised through this tax should go directly to stormwater infrastructure improvements. The priority must be on building and maintaining the systems that protect our community. And we believe a modest property tax adjustment approach, rather than a separate runoff-based tax, would be fairer, spreading responsibility across the entire community and resulting in smaller shared increases, and thus avoiding adding administrative costs to manage a new revenue stream. We understand the goal is to encourage sustainable stormwater practices. Investing in stormwater infrastructure improvements such as permeable surfaces, rain gardens, and proper drainage systems helps redirect and reduce runoff. However, the cost to participate in environmental improvements to an existing property is high. And I believe that Nicole touched on that in her presentation, so I won't repeat. But our survey and our respondents were clear. They were going to need more than a 40% incentive to put the upfront cost and to absorb those upfront costs for the investment of improving the environmental add-ons. So Oakville's 10,000 plus businesses are diverse, innovative, and central to the town's economy. As one-size-fits-all formula will not serve them well. And if council decides to move forward with the stormwater tax as outlined, we ask you tonight to pause approval of this report, to re-engage with business to ensure clarity and understanding. And our recommendations include a phased-in approach. Thank you, staff, for including that tonight. A cap on cost, incentives sufficient to encourage engagement. And I think it's important to allow businesses sufficient time to put those improvements in place before the taxes are imposed. So in closing, Mayor Burton, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I recognize these are difficult decisions and that differing perspectives will always exist. My responsibility tonight is to bring forward the voice of Oakville's business community. No matter how the math is calculated, the reality remains costs are high, awareness is low, and the timing is ill-timed. For these reasons, we strongly urge council to delay implementation. The Chamber remains committed to working with you to find a solution that protects our infrastructure while keeping Oakville a strong, competitive place to do business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fournier. You've generated questions. Councillor Giddings, you get to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, great seeing you. Always happy to see you out. And Ms. Lyons, thank you for being your wing person this evening. Have you had these discussions with counterparts, whether it be the city of Mississauga or other municipalities as part of your network and what they're going through?
I believe that my colleague, Ms. Lyons, has, but we have concentrated mostly on the lack of awareness from the business community. As I said earlier, we support the town's endeavors or foresight to maintain our infrastructure. What we're saying is that it's moving very quickly and businesses have not had a chance to really understand what is happening. They have been grappling, I don't need to tell you, with a number of different concerns in the last few months, and this is just one more thing. I actually spoke to a business owner who is a food manufacturer, and when we were talking about permittable options that he could do, he says, I can't have anything around my building. I have to have concrete around my building or asphalt. I cannot have bushes or gardens or anything just to keep rodents down. That's just one, but that's just an example of how when we reached out, the survey reached out to our members. I had members I have never heard from in my 6 years at the chamber calling me and saying, well, what is this? And so it really, I think there is room to increase awareness and understanding of why we need to do this.
I appreciate that. Have you seen a difference between your very large businesses, your medium-sized, or as you just mentioned, the smaller manufacturer? They all express the same concern, or is it primarily from one of those groups?
The feedback we get from the business community across the board is concern at the cost.
Understood. Thank you. And you're a resident of Oakville?
Proud resident of Oakville.
We're prouder to have you. What do you think from a resident standpoint?
I haven't, I honestly, I have not discussed that with other residents. I'm mostly concerned with the business community.
Appreciate it. Just know that you have two hats there. Thanks for coming out.
I try not to talk business when I'm off.
Fair enough.
Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Hi, France. How are you?
I'm good. Ray, how are you?
Great, great. Your presentation is bang right on. I think that's one of my real concerns is that the public and our businesses don't know about this. And even with the questions we're asking tonight, we're not even sure how it's working. So That's why I asked for a deferral to go back, but I got voted down on it, but that's fine. But I think your point is well taken. Your worship, I probably would come back with a referral rather. What do I call it? Yeah, referral. Thank you. With respect to this, some of the challenges and issues and questions have come up where we need answers from staff. So I would be happy to put that on the table for a referral.
We, of course, accept your motion, but your motion takes precedence over everything if there's a seconder, and we have other delegates that you might want to hear first. I'm just asking for a friend. Do you want to hear anybody else?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry. I just got excited there.
All righty. Well, if your enthusiasm is slightly curbed,
All right.
we will
Curb
let
my
others.
enthusiasm. But I do have a question, Francis, with respect. What's it if it goes back? What was your timing on it? 6 months, a year, 2 months? What was the consideration for the business community to get involved with this?
Well, I think that whether it's 6 months or a year, we would work with the town to try as we have. There's a lot of noise out there, and it is hard to get through. But I think some of the comments I heard from some of the councillors, having a set proposal of what the projects are going to be, so we have some more concrete information. What is a large? What is small? What do you have to do to get to 40%? Hopefully it's more, 75%, but, so more concrete information that we can get out. When it's very high level, there's so much information out there. We are all fighting to get our message across that people will just glance over it.
Yeah, and I think
despite your best efforts.
I think the point is the devil's in the details, and we need the details for your organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Through you, Mayor Burton. Can I just ask the question about, a point was raised about the cost of like a site alteration and that process to be able to do the work that would get them the credit. So to staff, was there any consideration or any feedback from other municipalities that use credits that really acknowledge the reality that I'm going after a credit for a reason, hopefully also going to do good things for the community, but is there any insight you can give us on those costs? Because the scale doesn't seem right then.
Through you, Mayor Burton, thank you for the opportunity to clarify something with regards to the credit program. The comments have been that it's not cost effective to implement something, but I think what I'd like to clarify is a lot of these properties have already had to put in stormwater measures as part of their site plan when they built their property. So those existing measures would qualify them for the credit. We would just have to go through the process to do the evaluation to understand how much of a credit they would entail. Of course, we would encourage anyone to also go and add on any additional measures that they don't have already on their property. But with that in mind, we didn't really do a cost-benefit analysis of the implementation of the new, because we were targeting property owners who already have this existing infrastructure in place. With that response, I don't know if you guys have any cost-benefit analysis that you can speak of? Okay.
So that answers the earlier delegate's question about, I've done all this work before, am I going to get any credit for that? So that's good. But we really haven't looked at the math on the credit relative to the math of the cost to file for a site alteration permit, et cetera. So there's another opportunity, I think, that we have to consider. Thank you for raising that and all the good points. You summarized it quite well.
Thank you. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, France, for your delegation. A couple questions. One is, you mentioned about the awareness is very low regarding the proposed fees. So what do you recommend is the engagement of the businesses, and what role would the chamber have to engage them better? Because that's the feedback we're getting, they're not being engaged. And then what, along with Councillor Chisholm's question, what would be the time frame for that? Because we're balancing residents versus businesses within the town. So what would your role be? How would you engage the businesses, and what's the timeline?
Well, it was one of the recommendations we did to staff, and I believe Councillor Nanda mentioned it tonight. We would like to see communication in every single tax bill going out to Oakville taxpayers on this new proposed fee, how it's going to work, what it's going to fund, and that way people get it. When I get my tax bill from the town, I open it and I read it. So that is one way. We have continued to provide information to the chamber membership. So, you know, when I say 80% of people who responded weren't aware, and you know, I'm just going to do some math here for you because I did it myself. Well, what does that mean? Well, we sent out 1,500 surveys to our members, and we had an open rate of 52%, which is quite above the, no, you're shaking your head, so you know it's quite above, right? Of the people who opened it, so of the 870 people who opened it, only 89 of them responded to the survey. But that's still 10% of the people who read the survey. So you have to be repetitive with your information, but getting back to what I said earlier, I think you need detailed information because there is a lot of noise out there. Businesses are dealing with tariffs. New tariffs come out every couple of weeks. There were some announced on Friday. Not very clear what they are yet, but they're coming. So, you know, businesses are dealing with a lot right now. Labor shortages. You know, I was at a restaurant today for lunch in Oakville, and this poor waitress was dealing with the whole restaurant. So, you know, I could go on with the challenges at business right now. So they need it simple, they need to understand what it's going to cost them, and they need time to factor it into their budgets. Because it will, you know, Councillor O'Meara talked about the large plazas in town. Well, we have talked to Smart Centers, we have talked to RioCan, and you know, these charges, they get passed down to the tenants.
So I guess back to my question, how could Oakville Chamber help with facilitating that discussion to come to a real solution so that we can actually move forward with this?
Well, some of our recommendations have already made it into the staff's report tonight. So one of our recommendations was to create a phased-in approach to the tax. So it's through communication and collaboration. I want to emphasize that we're not by any means saying, no, this should not go through. What we're saying is that we need more clarity, we need more time for businesses to absorb this extra cost. And you know, the businesses that do business here in Oakville, they are engaged. We have a very engaged chamber. But I want to point out, we have 870 members, and there are 10,000 businesses. So the chamber will do its part in communicating to our members, but there are 10,000 businesses in the town of Oakville, and counting.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Fournier, thank you very much.
Mayor Burton, council, staff, thank you very much.
We appreciate your time and your information. Mr. Clerk, the next delegate.
Andrew Luke.
Mr. Luke, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Mayor Burton and members of the council, my name is Andrew Luke. I've lived in Oakville for decades and owned both commercial and residential properties here. I'm writing to urge council to delay the approval of the stormwater report and the passage of the stormwater bylaw. This pause would allow time to improve the proposal and ensure the public fully understands its implications. The big issue, total tax increases. The core concern isn't just the stormwater charge itself, it's the overall impact on annual property taxes. Depending on property type and size, some owners could see increases 2 to 4 times the rate of inflation. Businesses are especially vulnerable, with some facing tens of thousands of dollars in new costs. From conversations with dozens of residences and business owners, it's clear that most people are unaware of the scale of these increases. This bylaw may represent one of the largest tax hikes in Oakville's history and deserves broader public awareness. Council has stated that property tax increases will be capped at 3.5% in '26. However, when the stormwater annual charge is added, even at the proposed 50% phase-in for the first year, a typical small detached home could see a total increase of over 6%. By '28, with full implementation and regular annual increases, that figure could exceed 9%. Residential equity. One detached home size doesn't fit all. The current proposal charges all detached homes the same fee of $273 per year, regardless of size. This is unlike other municipalities such as Mississauga, which use mapping technology to classify homes into multiple tiers. Oakville could adopt a simpler model, which has 2 tiers to ensure smaller homes aren't subsidizing larger homes. If measuring lot size is too complex, considering using a midpoint based on current value assessment. The town staff argue that large homes tend to have more green space, which helps absorb stormwater, but this assumption doesn't always hold true. Commercial properties, green space ignored. The town's logic about green space seems inconsistently applied. For example, one of my commercial properties has over 33% green space, including a drainage ditch and extensive landscaping, yet the town's estimate charges the entire lot at the full commercial rate, ignoring green space. That means that for just the stormwater tax portion, the tax increase with full implementation will be over 7%. Add the presumed 3.5% base annual increase, and that property will land in at approximately an 11% annual increase, or 4 times inflation. The tax department's email, which I received, also mentioned that my property might be eligible for a credit of up to 40% if eligible stormwater facilities are established on site. That doesn't necessarily mean green space. Most other jurisdictions only tax commercial properties based on their hard surface areas, rooftop, pavement, sidewalks. The new bylaw does not say that only hard surface taxation at the commercial rate. The latest accompanying stormwater report seems unclear on this matter. Even if it's possible to receive a credit for green space for commercial properties, owners should only be assessed on hard surfaces from the very beginning. That's mostly how other jurisdictions do it. This can be done with existing mapping technologies and rounded off to the nearest 10%. Most commercial owners would be okay with that, and a lot of administration costs and hassle could be avoided. Business owners could still appeal, but most won't. Economic timing and business impact. This is a poor time to introduce complex regulations and steep tax increases. The economic landscape has shifted dramatically since these proposals were drafted, and I think also they were done before the phase-in. Many businesses are struggling, and we're shocked to learn of the town's plans. Phasing in for a year later should be clearer once we pass the U.S. midterms. Concerns have also been raised about runoff from Milton's massive new developments. Business owners question the claim that they are responsible for 43% of Oakville's stormwater runoff, especially given the rapid hard surfacing of residential lots in northern Oakville. Small lots with high coverage are common, and homeowners often replace green space with hard surfaces post-inspection, and it's not even necessarily unlawful. Addressing some of the root problems. Rather than simply allocating more funds, the town should tackle some of the root causes of stormwater issues. For example, a small suggestion could be banning the connection of residential downspouts and weeping tiles to wastewater systems, something Toronto did years ago. Even if enforcement is limited, announcing such a ban would send a strong message. We need more from the residences in terms of stormwater mitigation. The current narrative focuses unfairly on businesses as underpaying contributors. Oakville is predominantly residential, and the trend towards hard surfacing in homes is clear. What will runoff percentages look like in 5, 10, or 15 years? The town should consider this before locking in one of the highest stormwater rates in Ontario. Credits. Non-residential property owners are offered various credits up to 40%. All of the property owners we spoke to commented that cost savings and administration hassles would not be worth the credits. This is especially the case for small and mid-sized property owners. We also heard the same from a few large operations. However, if only a few of the very large owners did something, that would be a good thing. My personal suggestion on credits for commercial properties would be to make it as simple as possible. An example would be green space. The more the better, and it's easy to measure. Financial flexibility and public engagement. There's no urgent need for these funds. The town has substantial reserves and recently received over $16 million from the Ontario government for stormwater and infrastructure. Moving ahead now undermines the claim of a 3.5% tax cap for 26. If council truly wants public engagement, it should clearly communicate how this levy affects future tax increases. That message would resonate far more than technical details. Public consultation was not as strong as it could have been. Attendance to events, virtual and in person, was measured in handfuls or dozens or small dozens of people. I won't get into the survey. I had issues with that, but carrying on. Where does the user pay end? Segment levies risk dividing our community. If stormwater charges are based on usage, will businesses seek tax breaks for underused services such as parks? They don't use parks very much. Should families with more children pay higher education levies? This approach raises difficult questions about fairness and social cohesion. A call for reason and revision. If the levy must proceed, let's at least improve it. Don't charge commercial green space. Don't apply the same rate to all detached homes. Scale back the non-residential rate to align with other municipalities. Oakville's property owners, residential and commercial, are reasonable people. They'll accept fair increases, but not unreasonable ones. A delay of a few months or even a year won't impact a 30-year project. Council, please reconsider. Use your judgment, improve the proposal. Better yet, take it to the people in next year's election. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Luke, for your presentation. Let's see if you've generated questions. Thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk? Oh, Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Actually, my question is for staff. It's just as a follow-up. Can you just confirm?
Can we release Mr. Luke?
Yes, we could. Thank you so much for your time.
Do you want to hear the other delegation and then follow up, or do you want to do that now?
If I could, I just want to ask two, because they might have to do some calculation.
Go ahead.
So we've just heard that what's proposed is the highest stormwater rate. Is that verifiable from the consultants?
I'll give them a moment. I know we did look at different municipalities and tried to compare ours to what we were seeing. But the difficulty in trying to just compare one fee to another fee is every municipality is sort of designing these stormwater fees a little bit differently and also covering different costs. So, for example, not all are doing a holistic approach of covering their maintenance, operating, renewal, as well as improvements. Some are only doing their state of good repair. Some are only putting their improvements into a levy. So, and also not always covering all the same asset basis as we are covering in ours. So some only focus on stormwater pipes, where we're trying to be comprehensive and cover off the costs of all of our stormwater infrastructure. So you really needed to dive in a bit deeper to try to understand each individual municipality's rate and what it's based on to be able to compare.
Okay.
So having said that, did you have an answer?
Through you, Mayor. It is a high rate in Ontario, but it's not the highest rate that we're aware of. And like Catherine is saying, it's certainly apples and oranges you're comparing, because people are paying for different services through their rates. For example, some municipalities are only paying for their operations but not their capital costs, that sort of thing. So I would also say that a lot of municipalities have had these rates in place for a long time, and these rates are typically renewed every 3 to 5 years, and so will yours be. So if you start with this rate, you can change it in the future, and it can be tweaked and adjusted not only the revenue requirement can be adjusted and revisited, but also your methodology of how you're administering it can be adjusted. So currently, AECOM is working with 2 municipalities that are upgrading their grates in Ontario. They've had them in place for 5 to 10 years, and it's time to be renewed, and they're looking at all these and revisiting all those types of things again. So, you know, it's good, like Catherine was saying earlier, to get it in now as a simple rate, and then, you know, refine it and tweak it as you move forward, and there'll be lots of opportunity for that.
Thank you for that. And I'm not sure if Jonathan or somebody can just confirm what would be the overall, I'm going to say tax increase, if you take the stormwater with the 3.5, can you just confirm what the overall tax increase would be?
Through you, Mayor Burton, to the councillor, just out of curiosity, were you talking about the 12 or the 24 million?
The 24.
So that would be an additional 3.7% on top of the 3.5.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Mr. Clerk, I believe you're now free to call the next delegate.
David Witt.
Mr. Witt, I apologize for how long we've kept you. Welcome. We look forward to your information.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. My name is David Witt. I'm a longtime resident of Oakville. I think I've been here since 1972 and owned a house since '89, so been around a while. I participated in the surveys that were done. I attended one of the virtual meetings, and yeah, in general, I'm in favor of what's being proposed, provided, though, that it's fair and equitable. I don't believe that it's fair and equitable, at least for the single-family residential. What I've got in my slide here, and actually the bottom is cut off, unfortunately, in what I'm seeing, is taken from a slide from October 2024 that was at one of the virtual presentations, and I simply added a couple lines to the bottom. I realize tonight that the actual tiered flat rate is a little bit different from what I've got on my slide. Unfortunately, I only learned of the meeting on Saturday and on my way back from a vacation, so I was a bit scrambled to get prepared for tonight. But nevertheless, the numbers are still relevant in terms of doing a comparison. So what I believe was shown on the slide that was provided is the property tax rate based on collecting $24 million a year. And when you look at the single-family average home at 331, that matches the 330 that was in the presentation tonight. So I believe those numbers are all correct. Obviously, the 216 should be 274, and that's fine. And then there was a variable line presented on this slide, and I have to trust that the numbers were correct because this is what was presented to us. Perhaps it's different, and staff may want to address it. But what it showed is that for a small single-family home, the variable rate, if that was what was used, would be $99. And my understanding was that was 0.7 times the property area times a factor that would collect this $24 million. And as you can see, the variable rate for an average home was very close to the flat tiered, and for the large home was a bit more. When you actually look at who's paying more and who's paying less, you can see that the small single-family home, he's actually paying $1 more. Today, it'd be even more than that, almost $50 more, based on 274. The property tax minus the tiered rate showed a net savings of $115. It wouldn't quite be that much, and obviously the large home saves quite a bit more. I don't know whether you folks can see the bottom line or if there's any way to shrink this down, because I don't have the numbers there. If we just leave it like that. If you look at the variable rate, you can see everybody saves. And so my feeling is that we need to consider a variable rate. It's not fair to put one flat tier across all single-family residential homes. Now, granted, I've got a vested interest in this. I live in that small single-family home, not that particular home, but a home that's valued as a CVA of about $599,000. And so I'm in that classification. What's a little different for me, though, is I have a big property. I have lots of grass, you know, lots of property to absorb stormwater. So since we're just doing this propose to have this flat tier, I don't receive any benefit. It actually costs me money, and my taxes go up. Again, I support paying taxes and getting benefits like, you know, maintaining our stormwater system, but it needs to be equitable, and I really don't think it is unless we look at a variable rate. Something else that I noted is, in my research, I think I came up with 43,000 single-family homes in Oakville that would fit this category. If you multiply that by $20 a year, that's over $800,000. Would that pay for 4 or 5 people to administer a variable rate? Perhaps it would, and for a very small additional fee, I could actually benefit from this program and see an equitable fee by having a variable rate. If we can't go to a variable rate, then I think we should have at least 3 tiers to try to get some balance between the different size homes. The other option I'll throw on the table for you to think about is, how about an option to pay a fee and have your property assessed? It would be worth it to me to pay $50 or maybe even $100 for a one-time assessment and have somebody come out and tell me, hey, you know what, we can save you some money here. So I really would like to see property owners who have the ability to absorb stormwater be able to benefit from paying this fee. You know, that it's supposed to be a fee for service, and so if the service is the town collecting my stormwater, then I should only pay for the amount that the town is collecting from me. That's essentially my presentation. I guess one last thing I would add is transparency in the taxes. This is something that really bugged me at the meeting I went to. I asked, oh, hey, so we're going to have, you know, the stormwater fee taken off our taxes. Well, yeah, that may be not sure, you know, that's up to town council. It was a very wishy-washy statement. I really believe you need to have, in the year that this comes off of our taxes, it is transferred to a fee, there should be a line item on our tax bill that shows the deduction so that there's not any, you know, reaching into another pocket to grab some money. It's pretty easy to say, hey, we just had a 4% increase in taxes this year, neglecting to tell me that that also includes the 2% you took off for stormwater, leading to a total of 6%. So I just want to make sure that for transparency, you consider putting a line on our tax bill that says that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the information. I can assure you that the budget will be transparent on that front. I'm just wondering, are you assuming that a grassed yard has an infinite capacity to absorb rain? Are you assuming that there's never any runoff?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I recognize there's only a certain amount that's going to be absorbed by my yard, but certainly if I have a pool in the backyard with a whole bunch of cement and I have to drain that pool into the street once a year to lower the level for, you know, winter rising, I'm dumping even more water on the street. So I have a lot of grass. You know, I don't live in on one of those properties where somebody's come in and torn down the small house and put up the monster home and taken away the grass. I want to benefit from the fact that I have a larger yard. The other reason I want to benefit from it is because back in the day when my subdivision was built, there was a special provision put on my property that actually limits the size of house I can build. So even if I wanted to build this home, I'm not permitted to, at least not without a variance. And so, you know, my property has a lower value probably to a builder because he's not permitted to put a bigger home on it. So I'd rather benefit as the owner for the property that's there. And I'm sure there's others on my street that are very similar that would like to benefit the same, as well as others in Oakville.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your very good points.
Okay. You're welcome.
Council, that brings us to the table. And I'm looking for you to make a decision. Councillor Adams.
I'd like to move the staff recommendation. I think staff have done an awful lot of good work on this. I know that public engagement is always difficult and you can always do more. And I think ultimately we will be doing more. I completely hear the business community's comments, and I think there's some opportunities in the future to do additional work with them. Just because we approve this today doesn't mean that a year from now or 2 years from now we can't change the credit amounts, the way the credits are handled or managed, So I think there are a bunch of opportunities there to continue the work in the future.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Now, Councillor Chisholm, I understand you want to move referral again?
Correct.
All right. Councillor Duddick will second that, I think. All right. So on a second try, you need 10 votes to succeed.
Point of order, it's not the same try. It's a referral, not a deferral.
It's a referral. Yep.
It's the same thing.
Mayor Burton, respectfully, I mean, the clerk can pull out the procedure, but deferral is different than referral. And so they shouldn't have a higher bar to have to hit. It should be the majority rules.
Councillor, in neither case was there a time set, in neither case was there an objective set. They're the same motion with two different words. Refer asks for, look, I tell you what, I'll accept that it's not a second try. We'll make this sporting. Is there any objection to the referral motion?
I'm sorry, but I'd like to know, is there a timeline we can put on this? Because if we're going to put it, is it going to be for a month? Is it going to be for 2 years? I'd like to know where we're going. 'Cause I can go for a short, send it back, but I think we as a council should deal with it and not put it off until after the election next year and then slam it in for everybody.
No, I agree with you, Councillor, on that. It could be a short term. I guess I defer to the staff too with respect to, there's been a lot of good comments and questions need to be answered. So I think it can be done in a short term. That's my personal opinion.
Well, Council, a referral requires a list of objectives to be achieved as well as a time to come, and doesn't necessarily have to have a time to come back, but your colleague is suggesting that you have one. But unless we give council objectives to come back, we're gonna have the same thing we just had. So would you like to take time to write a motion out?
Could I suggest maybe that what the objective is to create a comprehensive communication plan to be able to educate and to explain back to the public what is being proposed? I think that could be easily done in 2 months.
Councillor,
I don't know. I think that's the bugaboo that most of us are having, is that staff have done an extremely good job. They have tried very hard to communicate. And like we often find, you can do the best you can and people still are not aware of what's going on. We've lost newspapers, okay? We don't have the town-wide magazine that we used to provide. So, I mean, maybe something, a separate communication similar to what we did with Let's Talk Oakville would indicate just on stormwater management.
Thank you, Councillor. I would ask that council members not interrupt each other and wait to be recognized by the chair, just out of common courtesy and in keeping with our procedure bylaw. And if I'm permitted to return to what I was asking Councillor Chisholm, Councillor Chisholm, would you like a few minutes to draft something? And if so, I'm happy to call a recess.
Yes, let's call a recess and let's devise the motion for an objective that you want to have put on notice. Is that correct?
All right, so we'll have a 10-minute recess or a 12-minute recess. We'll be back at 9:50. Council is back in session, having had a recess for Councillor Chisholm to draft a motion. Councillor Chisholm, we're going to, I understand, put your motion up for council to see on the screen and the public as well. All right, and the mover is Councillor Chisholm, the seconder is Councillor Duddick, as I understand it.
Just a point of order, Your Worship. Just for grammatical, plan that and addresses the concerns. Yeah. And addresses the concerns and suggestions of the delegates' comments with respect to Report 11.2, stormwater fee.
Where do you want the end?
Right, yeah, right there. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Knoll.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Did it, Alan? Go ahead. Okay. Just, can I have a question to the mover, please? Thank you. Are you suggesting that the report, so this deferral or referral is to get a report on December 1st, and then there'd be a launch of an education communications program after that? Because this is a staff report back by December 1st on an education communications plan.
With an education that addresses the concerns and suggestions of the delegates' comments with respect to the report.
Okay, so and part 2 of that, assuming that was the answer to that question, is can we get a response from staff as to the practicality of this plan?
Commissioner Fu.
Clear, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to see clarity too, similar to Councilor, are we coming back with just a plan but not actually do the consult? Or are you thinking we will finish the consult to reach out to everyone by December 1st? I just want to clarify. Me just creating a plan and I still have 6 months to do the work? Or that clarity on the plan is what I'd like to understand.
Yeah, I agree to that, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, which way? Sorry, which way? Can you clarify?
With the education plan?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry,
So would you like us to come back to you on December 1st with a plan to consult?
Yes.
And then
yes.
I will have time to consult.
Correct.
After December 1st.
Correct.
And then at the same time on December 1st, I will provide some report to talk about the suggestion of the delegates in terms of the different options that's being asked for.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Compound question now, and the question is, how long would it be practical to have a consultation or a communications and education plan subsequent to December 1st? Obviously, December would be a bad month to start a communications plan. How much time would be required in order to practically do this consultation to be meaningful?
So through you, Mr. Chair, for us to do consultation using the plan that were proposed on December 1st, it will be minimum 6 months. So we're going into the middle of, I'll say at best, June, July of 2026. Then we'll report back to you on the result of that sometimes September or October of 2026. And that's minimum pending, again, on the outcome of the communication that will be satisfactory to the council.
Councillor Chisholm.
That's a tough one. That's too long. It's absolutely too long. I mean, I guess what we're rolling out here is what type of consultation and communication we're going to do for this. You know, we have different ways of doing it, but that's almost a whole year.
Well, Councillor, Council, I see your hands, and I will get to you in your turn. And right now, the order is Councillor Elgar, Councillor Grant, Councillor Giddings, and then Councillor Duddick. Councillor Chisholm, my advice is that your referral motion should use the word refer somewhere, like that council refers the report to staff to report on an education and communication plan for the stormwater management fee and address the concerns and suggestions of the delegates' comments with respect to the stormwater fee report.
Yeah, that's fine. Sure. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Now, so you're not asking them to conduct this consultation. You're just
Correct.
asking them to reassure you that they will have a communications plan.
Correct.
And should this motion to refer fail, would you be interested to have the same effect added to the main motion as item number 5, telling staff to prepare the education communication plan and address the concerns and suggestions of the delegates' comments for council approval?
Okay, I'm fine with that too, as a secondary, yep.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Clerk, could you just take a second to adjust the wording? I'm still going to get to you all, but one of my duties as your chair is to try to make the motions clear so that the staff can understand and follow them. And that's all I'm doing here. This is procedural. So we start the thing with council refers.
That council refers, okay.
The report 11.2 stormwater fee to staff somewhere I'd like to see REFERS. Council refers. Report 11.2 stormwater fee to staff for a report by December 1st, on an education communication plan and address. You don't need the singular there. You can make it address without the ES. The concerns and suggestions of the delegates' comments with respect to report 11.2 stormwater fee. Councillor Chisholm, is that what you're agreeing to?
Yep, that's fine.
And Councillor Duddick, are you comfortable as a seconder with that?
Thank you for permitting me to say something. I would respectfully withdraw, and I would hope my colleague would as well, given that we all agree we have to do something, okay? We all agreed that we have to move this forward. What we have, the crux of it is Councillor Chisholm has indicated, and we've heard, it's the communication aspect. So if you have said, and rightly so, add it to the staff recommendation, I would be just as comfortable with that.
All right. Councillor Chisholm.
I want to move forward with referral. That's
okay. I imagine you'd get another seconder. Councillor Nanda is volunteering. Councillor Giddings is, you get to choose. Who do you want? Councillor Nanda, I recognized. Okay. All right. We know what we're voting on. I'm going to call the vote. Sorry.
Recorded vote too, please.
Mayor Burton, thank you. I just need clarification on this. Is this still, we are really approving the stormwater management fee as was presented tonight, but we have to do a better job communicating it to the public at this point in time? And we'll have everything done prior to finalization of the 2026 budget for this term.
No.
So through you, Mayor Burton, as staff, what we read in this recommendation is that you're asking us to prepare an education communication plan that we'll deliver afterwards, but you'd like to see it by December 1st. And that second, in that report, we report on the comments that have come forward through this plan. So you'll have the recommendation back in front of you about what to do with the stormwater fee on December 1st, which was the point I also wanted to make. You have a meeting on November the 24th, and then you have a meeting later, December 15th. And so you might want to think about the December 1st date in there.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because we're going to be finalizing the budget. I just want to make sure, because what I heard tonight from Jonathan was that right now the overall target for the budget is 3.5%. And maybe I misheard, but I thought, and if we don't do that, we'll be bumping it an additional 3.7%? No. Or is it just a couple of 2.2 percentage points?
So I'm going to change the question, I think. Is there enough time for you to consider the stormwater fee in the budget if we report on November the 24th?
Correct.
I would think that that time is very short, and you wouldn't have enough information in front of you because we'd be providing it sometime after the 24th for you to make a decision on your budget, for the mayor to make a decision on the budget on December the 15th, which is, I think, the intent, the 15th, or 2 days later.
Can we call a special meeting earlier? If we can move the date, which we have to do, obviously, if we're going to try to deal with this. And also, can I get confirmation, did I hear correctly from Jonathan that it would be another 3.7% if we go with the old system? Or is it just 0.2?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So the question that I responded to is adding 24 million to our existing tax situation.
Yes.
If you needed to add 12 to get to 24, as it were, that would be a much smaller number. It'd be half of that increase.
Well, so when half, is it, what are we talking then? Are we talking 1.5? Are we talking 2?
So
Or
through
are
you,
we
Mayor
talking
Burton,
a 0.2?
through you, Mayor Burton, just for clarity on this, is the request, what would it be if we added the 12 million to increase to the full $24.4 million program? Is that the question?
No.
Okay.
Nobody's contemplating a $36 million program.
No.
We're trying to fund a $24 million a year program. We either take 12 million out of the budget and put it into a fee and add 12 million to that fee, or we add 12 million to the tax budget.
Yes.
So through you, Mayor Burton, if we were to add 12 million to the tax, that's I believe my computer's frozen right now, but I believe it was about 1.8%.
Thank you. So 3.5 goes to 5.3?
Thereabouts, yes.
All right.
Okay. That really helps me decide. I appreciate that, because I think if the residents knew how that would impact them with your this revised way, they'd much rather go with the 273 than the 320. I thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Councillor Elgar, Councillor Grant, Councillor Giddings, and Councillor Nanda.
I'm not sure what's giving me a bigger headache, the grammar on this or the fact that none of this moves the needle in any fashion on what we're trying to achieve here, especially given that we can get a report on a communications plan subsequent to moving everything. So just to keep it short, I can't support this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report by December 1st, 2025 on an education communication plan, fine, and address the concerns and suggestions of the delegates. I don't see anything here in terms of updating the questions or identifying the questions that came from the delegations that have spent their evening with us this evening. I don't see how we could possibly address them in this unless we identify them.
Thank you for that suggestion, Councillor. Councillor Nanda?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. It was similar to what Councillor Giddings was saying as well, and I was speaking to staff a little bit earlier about capturing what the delegates were asking. I do believe just putting this in the report and coming back with a communication plan does not help with what the residents are asking for right now, is to have more say and be a part of what the stormwater fee would end up being. So to just accept the report and put out communication is not really what the residents are looking for. So I want to second this to be able to give them the opportunity to come back. I do understand staff's position and the position that it may not get through the budget this year, but based on what we heard, it seems like we need to do more. And I think we do need to capture the questions that they were asking about.
Thank you, Councillor. You seconded the motion. And we had a recess for the purpose of writing a motion. Councillor Hazlet-Thiel.
To the staff. I thought I saw you taking notes as people were speaking. At development and planning meetings, we often hear back, here are the things we heard. Is there an opportunity for you to assist with this, this referral back with some clarity around the concerns and suggestions of the, that came from the delegations?
I could take an attempt to indicate the themes that I gathered, if that would be helpful.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'd appreciate it.
So it's create a comprehensive communication plan and education back to the public on what's being proposed. Provide a proposal related to a variability for the single detached residential category to provide more equity, and explore the opportunity for a higher credit program for the businesses beyond the 50%. That is the three main themes that I heard, but there's lots of details there, but that's the main themes that I heard. I don't know if that captures what council wishes.
That sounds good. So with those comments, I'd look to you, Mayor Burton. Can we if the specificity is not there around address the concerns and suggestions, can we say as reported by Commissioner Fu?
It's an interesting beginning of a list, but I also heard comments from delegates that we should delay it till 2027. I heard that we should have a longer phase-in period. I heard any number of things up to and right up next to let's not do it. I heard just use the taxes. So that's quite a waterfront, but those are the additional things that I recollect hearing. Anyway, I'm of a mind that a referral ought to be specific for what you want back, and if staff have taken note of the, we also have a tape of the meeting. I mean, staff can audit the tape. I don't think we need to take another recess and make a list. If we all understand that what this is asking for is for comment or a response addressing all the concerns and suggestions from all of the delegates.
Thank you, Your Worship. That covers it.
All right. So Councillor Hazlet-Thiel, or is that you? Okay. Councillor Duddick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I just ask staff, of all the suggestions we've heard tonight, are those already, or have they already been factored into your decision and recommendation this evening? In other words, have you heard something different than what you already dealt with the consultant in sort of juggling what's going to be the best case scenario?
Thank you, Councillor Duddick, for that question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have considered all of that. We have consulted on Chamber on a number of occasions, and we have heard from the public who did come out. We looked at the phasing. We looked at 3 years to 5 years, but longer phasing means less work, and the improvements is direly needed in some of the older areas, as you know, when we hit a flood. We have looked at the variability of measuring every single property in the single detached, but based on the data scientists' work, we were fairly confident that we don't think the administrative burden is worth it to add it to the cost. And we also looked at the businesses. If we provide a higher credit program, it just means we just have more fee to collect and everyone's fee just goes up. So overall, if we look at the fundamental of the program is a piece of pie, we have to collect that much money. And every time we give someone more credit or delete someone out of the equation, it just means everybody else has to pay more. So we try to balance between what is a reasonable cost and what is the reasonable administration, and ensuring that we're not overburdened the administration, which overall increase the cost, then it go back to the taxpayers to pay for it again. So thank you, Councillor Dudek. That is a fair question. We have considered all of these variabilities, and we propose to you today is a balanced approach, in our opinion, in terms of, but of course it's council's decision in terms of where you want to go with the structure. Today we're just approving the structure. We do have a full-on communication plan and continue to educate and communicate after the structure is approved today, because the implementation is not for a little bit more. And then the entire conversation over budget is deferred, as the report clearly state, is going to the budget committee for your deliberation. So we are not here to debate where that 12 million go. We're just hoping for that structure to be approved today so we could continue that communication and education moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarity. That assists considerably, because I didn't want to mislead or give people false hope thinking that we're going to come back with something different than what we've already had considered by our staff, hence why the recommendation is what it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dudek. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Absolutely. Thank you, Phoebe, for the clarity on that. I think that's very straightforward. It's one-page Q&A. The questions that came out and quick answers to those, and you've basically verbalized that in the last 2 or 3 minutes. So thank you very much, because that you're right. You know, I don't like to say the barn door is closed and we're moving forward, but in reality, we've got to move forward, and we've addressed everything. And however, there might be some things that in the communication plan. Right now, we have a communication plan. Maybe we can change it up, okay? Make it more doable, get to the residents. That's all I'm looking for on that respect. But in answering those questions, I think I'm fine with it and where we're going with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I think before we go too much further down this path, we need a motion to continue past the 10:30 witching hour. Councillor Adams and Councillor Longo, anybody object? Thank you, Sean. Your record is consistent. The motion to proceed past is carried. All right, we're going to call the vote. I'm going to call. Sorry.
Mayor Burton, I need clarification. I got a feeling what I just heard is that the motion that's on the floor isn't really the motion he needs anymore. He wants to approve the the report before us tonight. However, we have another clause in there, Part 5, that we come back with a education communication plan. I thought that's what I thought I heard him say.
Councillor Chisholm, have you been misheard?
No.
So you're withdrawing the referral motion? All right.
No. I'm not, no, I still want it up. Yeah, I want to vote on this.
Okay, fine.
Councillor, I'm glad that, I'm sorry for the hearing problem, but I'm glad for the clarification from Councillor Chisholm. All right, we've been asked for a recorded vote on this. I am myself going to vote against referral. I believe that it's unnecessary, and I believe that the communications plan is going to come forward in due course anyway. So I don't believe anything is to be gained here except the disruption of the budget. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the vote?
Councillor O'Meara?
No.
Councillor McNeese?
No.
Councillor Duddick?
No.
Councillor Chisholm? Councillor Chisholm? Oh. Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel?
Yes.
Councillor Giddings?
Yes.
Councillor Elgar?
No.
Councillor Longo?
No.
Mayor Burton?
No.
Councillor Knoll?
Nope.
Councillor Grant?
No.
Councillor Adams?
No.
Councillor Lashina?
No.
Councillor Nanda?
Yes.
And Councillor C.
No.
It's lost.
It loses. The main motion has been moved by Councillor Adams, and if I remember correctly, seconded by Councillor Longo. And Councillor O'Meara, the chair recognizes you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to propose an amendment to the recommendation under number 1 and change 2026 budget process to 2027. And I'm saying that because the community that will be taking the brunt of this and the right sizing of our stormwater fees is the business community. They are going to see massive changes. Ford of Canada, $1 million. And we know where they are right now in terms of a tariff war. We know where we are. This is a horrible time to only give them a matter of months to try and adjust how this is all going to shake out. We've heard the business community say, just give us time. We're not against this. Some of us are, but we need to understand it. We need to see its justification. And on page 5 of the report, at the very bottom, transparent and justifiable. It's in our report. Is that what the business community needs to see? So let's take the time. Let's communicate with the rest of our businesses and let them know what's about to come, what to expect, why, what projects we're doing, and then we can bring it into the 2027 budget. But we are flying through this right now in the face of the people who are going to be hit the most with these changes. And I don't think I think we could give ourselves a little more runway by putting it off for one budget cycle. So that's my amendment. Thank you.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Chisholm. May I put the vote? Is there any objection to the amendment?
Sorry, recorded vote, Your Worship.
Mr. Clerk, would you call the vote?
Councillor O'Meara?
Yes.
Councillor McNeese?
Yes.
Councillor Duddick?
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm?
Yes.
Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel?
No.
Councillor Giddings?
No.
Councillor Elgar?
No.
Councillor Longo?
No.
Mayor Burton?
No.
Councillor Knoll?
No.
Councillor Grant?
No.
Councillor Adams?
No.
Councillor Lashina?
Yes.
And Councillor Nanda?
Yes.
And Councillor Shi?
Yes.
It's defeated. It's defeated. The motion is defeated. It's lost.
I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, it's okay.
The amendment is defeated. Can I put the vote on the main motion? Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel.
Oh.
Sorry. In it is talking about timing of implementation of the fee to be considered in the 2026 budget, but that leaves us the latitude of not implementing it and making that decision at the budget. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so you...
See the implications through the 26 budget, and you can make a decision at that point in time, or at least provide comments to the mayor as he prepares his budget.
But adjustments to the actual structure, whether it's credits, et cetera, could not be made at that time if this motion passed tonight. Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Adams and then Councillor Duddick.
I just wanted to clarify, the intention is that there's a fifth point here to add the that staff prepare an education and communication plan to accompany the implementation. You may have had some more specific wording, and I'm happy with that as well.
Councillor, I'm taking the view that it's your motion, seconded by Councillor Longo, and if you're adding a fifth element, I think that's fine. Council will be able to vote on that as a package or separately, because they can separate items. So all I ask is that you give the wording to the clerk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would use the words that staff prepare an education and communication plan to accompany the implementation plan. And if anybody has some better words, I'm happy to hear them.
They're fine words. I just want them written down and given to the clerk.
I'm not sure if the clerk was listening to that or not. He was. Okay.
He may be. You know, it's times like this I miss that pad of motion paper that we have at Halton, where they make you write it down and hand it up. Councillor Duddick, why don't we go to you while we wait to see what the clerk captured?
Thank you. I appreciate Councillor Adams has captured that. That was my concern, that wasn't missed with the original recommendation adding a fifth item. So thank you. I agree.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, could you assure us that that's what you're doing? Thank you very much. We'll just be patient now. I'm endlessly patient now that we've passed the motion to go past the hour. Well, it's close, but it doesn't include
That staff prepare an education and communication plan to accompany the implementation plan.
So I don't think he cares about the order of communication and education, but he just wants to accompany the implementation. All righty. Education plan. I see plan on my screen. Are we all good? Sure, go ahead. We'll add that. More than this word stormwater is wanted by Councillor Chisholm here. He wants the fee, I guess you could say. Okay, are we happy?
And your worship, there's a missing D in the word "and" on the first line there. Okay. That's staff prepare.
Well,
sorry, yeah, sorry, there's an extra N, I'm sorry, yeah.
All right. All right, Councillor Chisholm?
Yes, before we vote on this, Your Worship, I'd like to make a few comments and my fear of this report and understanding the public is not totally aware of how this is going to work. Be prepared. We're going to have some major challenges with this. As my residents and so forth are elderly, and they're going to have, they're on the lines now of poverty, some of them, in their homes. And now we're going to be moving into another fee-based service, and I understand it. I totally understand the project, but let's be I guess, sensitive to our residents with everything else going on and compounding with all the challenges we're having with our friends in the south and tariffs and taxes and food prices going up. It's just one thing after another. So I'm really, I'm reserved on approving this tonight, but I understand it. But I just want to make my position clear. We're going to have some major challenges with our residents on this new program. So I just leave it as that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. All right, Council, for everybody's comfort, I'll ask the clerk to do a recorded vote. Mr. Clerk, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor O'Meara?
No.
Councillor McNeese?
Yes.
Councillor Duddick?
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm?
Yes.
Councillor Hazard-Thiel?
No.
Councillor Giddings?
No.
Councillor Elgar?
Yes.
Councillor Longo?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes.
Councillor Knoll?
Yes.
Councillor Grant?
Yes.
Councillor Adams?
Yes.
Councillor Lushina?
Yes.
Councillor Nanda?
No.
Councillor C?
No.
Carries.
All right, Council, thank you very much. You worked long and hard on that. And as a reward, we get to turn to item 11.1. If I've kept track carefully. This is a motion from the August 11th council meeting when notice of it was given, moved by Councillor Dave Giddings and seconded by Councillor Kathy Duddick. And Councillor Giddings, the chair recognizes you. I think you might want to read it. I'm not sure, but anyway, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My council colleagues will remember this from a June report that went to the province where we listed our priorities. And this was included as one of them, as brought forward by the Accessibility Advisory Committee and moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Duddick, whereas the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act 2005, AODA, was enacted with the goal of creating a barrier-free Ontario for all people with disabilities by January 1st, 2025. And whereas multiple legislative reviews and community feedback have identified challenges and inconsistencies in the enforcement, planning, and reporting mechanisms related to AODA implementation, and whereas the town of Oakville remains committed to fostering community belonging and removing barriers to participation through local implementation of AODA standards and continued advocacy to the province of Ontario. And whereas the Accessibility Committee, AAC, has reviewed the staff report entitled Update on Ontario's Progress Toward an Accessible Province by 2025, dated June 3rd, 2025, and recommends that Council demonstrate continued support for the ongoing advocacy efforts. Therefore, be it resolved that the province of Ontario be called upon to support the goal of the AODA and champion its full implementation by developing and releasing a comprehensive provincial action plan with clear and achievable timelines, establishing measurable accountability frameworks to track progress, and committing to regular public reporting on the status of accessibility initiatives across Ontario. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the town's Accessibility Advisory Committee, Halton Region Accessible Advisory Committee, Accessibility Advisory Committees of the Halton Area Municipalities, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario, Premier Ford, Ontario Minister for Seniors and Accessibility, and members of Provincial Parliament and members of Parliament whose ridings are located in the town of Oakville. If I may, the AODA came into effect 20 years ago, and a lot of strides have been made. We have a long, long way to go, whether it be building code, whether it be accessibility, and it's time we got moving on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. Councillor Chisholm. Okay. Council, I'd like to have, Councillor Duddick?
Thank you. As the seconder, I want to thank Councillor Giddings for bringing this forward and applaud his work on the Accessibility Advisory Committee. The importance of educating and raising awareness on this important issue became very apparent even as recently as the budget meeting we had, where we had a delegation questioning the validity of providing accessible improvements in a certain area of town. It's not just one area of town, it's across town. And the more we can do that, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Council, I'd like to have a recorded vote on this for the formality of it and to assist with the ongoing advocacy efforts. And before I ask the clerk to do that, I want to thank Councillor Giddings, and I want to say, Councillor Giddings, your tireless dedication to this issue is phenomenal. As long as I've known you, you've been a tireless advocate for this cause, and I think you have the satisfaction of knowing that a lot of the progress that we have made here in Oakville has had your spark plug in the engine. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As many of my council colleagues know, my brother was severely disabled, and he moved to Oakville, 259 Robinson Street, and had a wonderful time and was known by a lot of people. And we have families and friends, and I think of David Underwood, who didn't see this go through, but he'd certainly appreciate it.
Well done, sir. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Councillor O'Meara?
Yes.
Councillor McNeice?
Yes.
Councillor Duddick?
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm?
Yes.
Councillor Hazard-Thiel?
Yes.
Councillor Giddings?
Yes.
Councillor Elgar?
Yes.
Councillor Longo?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes.
Councillor Knoll?
Yes.
Councillor Grant?
Yes.
Councillor Adams?
Yes.
Councillor Lashina?
Yes.
Councillor Nanda?
Yes.
Councillor Shi?
Yes.
It's carried.
Thank you. Congratulations, Council, on a good decision. Council, on your agenda, you have staff memoranda. If you have any questions, now is the time. Councillor Hazlet-Thiel.
Thank you. My questions are around 13.2. So I'm appreciative of the changes that are being made to the pool permit fees. My question is, will these changes have any impact on the timing to receive a pool permit? In other words, will this enable some of them to go faster? Does it have an impact on those that are more complicated? I'm appreciative that there is a split now in the fee, but the timeline would be something that people would like to understand.
Thank you for the question, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a good example of the process work that we're doing. The short answer to your question is yes. But I do just want to acknowledge the process work that's gone through this to reduce the number of steps that are required for both the simplified and the more complex pool permits. So it will result in a faster turnaround.
We appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor. Council, we have a number of notices of motion under new business, and it's duly noted in your agenda as who the movers and seconders are and what the texts are. And we will look forward to considering those at the next council meeting, which I believe is October 6th. Yes. So with that, if everybody's satisfied, Councillor Hazlet-Thiel. All right, so if everybody's satisfied with that, we will move to item 15, regional reports and question period regarding town boards and advisory committees. Anybody? Requests for reports, I'm not aware of any, item 16. And in that event, a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws is in order. Councillor Knoll and Councillor Elgar. Any objection? Mr. Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, the bylaws are considered read and passed, and as listed in the agenda. And that ends the work of this meeting. It's been terrific working with you. I look forward to the next time, and that ends the meeting.